How you doing, John?
Evening, guys. How are you doing? Hope you're okay, guys. Thanks for having us on. So I'm a bit late, guys. I just had a show, and
No
yeah,
problem,
this
mate.
is
Thank you
great.
for
It's
joining us.
good to see my guy Douglas as well, top guy, and keeping making smile as well, making laugh as well. Alex, first time I met you as well.
Hi.
And look, guys, thanks for having us on, and big up.
You're more than welcome, mate. More than welcome. And let's get on. A man that had a little bit of a rant about Everton yesterday. Um, we've got Max. Hello, Max. How you doing, mate?
All right. You okay?
How's it all going? Yeah, all good, mate. All good. So, one thing I want to bring up, Connor, is, of course, financial fair play and everything that, and it's been mentioned a couple of times with regards to Everton, and I've had a lot of people say about what is going to happen, because am I right in understanding if Everton did go down, that financial fair play would just be written off, but staying up, are you worried about that now, that penalty?
Um, no, because they still apparently the people that we had look at the books have said it's fine. The Premier League obviously are looking at it differently. When you see Manchester City get away with it, or they're more than likely going to get away with it, it doesn't make me sweat as much because it's like the Premier League are in a tough spot now where they're going to have to either punish both of us or neither of us because it's going to start asking questions. But if we go down, I think it would have been written off because it's the Premier League rules we broke or supposedly broke. Sorry. But I'm glad we stayed up because they were saying the board's independent regulators were saying if we went down, the financial disadvantage of going down, the way the club is, it would actually be worth. They wouldn't know how the club would look to move forward, which is always a bit of a damning. It was quite a damning statement by them saying if we go down, Everton Football Club looks in a bit of jeopardy. But we're also getting bought out apparently by MSP. They're going to buy. They're buying us, but it'll take 4 years, and it's instalments of 4 years, just because the owner clearly didn't want to go straight away, and he wants to get the stadium. I think his legacy is the stadium. He wants to get that done. But by the time that's built, he'll have gone. But yeah, I'm not worried about it because I think if it was, I don't know, it'd be points. But like I said, wait and see what they do with City first. It's a very interesting situation for them to be in. But I can see why, if we're guilty, why fans are annoyed of other teams.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I tell you what, let's go from the northwest to where we're going, John, don't we? We're going to the northeast, and of course, Sir Eddie Howe's club, Newcastle United. I did say third at the start of the season, didn't I? I
You
wasn't.
said third.
I said it to Harry Redknapp. John, did you not know? I've banged on about it all season long. I said to Harry Redknapp, they're going to finish third. Newcastle are going to finish third. Blah 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 blah. And yeah, pretty nearly there, nearly there. Harry would claim it as a win, but at the same time, Champions League, bloody brilliant.
I tell you something, right? I mean, first thanks that was on again. It's absolutely fantastic having Newcastle United in the Champions League. I mean, before the start of the season, I did expect us to be there. A cup run, right? And top 8 finish, yeah. I'll be cool with that, yeah. But if you get Europa League, we get Europa League. Simple as that. But to get us in the Champions League, right, and the cup final, right, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, we didn't win it, but hey ho. But we've been top 4 for quite a long time, for a good few months, right? And we deserve it at the end of the day because the football we've been playing at Eddie Howe has been fantastic. The players we've got there is unbelievable there. I mean, the way Joe Linton, right, turned his career around, he's got a business. Just won his first Brazilian cap, by the way, right? So big up to Joe, big up to Brazil,
Excellent.
by the way. And as well, Jacob Murphy, right? Bang average player, bang average, yeah. Not special, bang average. And he's played really well, yeah. Callum Wilson, yeah. 1 goal, 1 assist in 3 months. I thought the guy's done, yeah. Can't lie. 18 goals this season from the former Bournemouth striker and one of your guys as well. It's been fantastic, yeah. The back 4 has been immense, yeah. Even Dan Burns played well. Kieran Trippier, brilliant, yeah. The back 2, Shah and Botman. Botman, for me, he's going to be destined for the very top, this guy. The midfield, right? Bruno Guimaraes, right? People will say he was mad coming to Newcastle. He could have pretended close. Juve wanted him. Top Spanish clubs want him as well, but he chose us, because of the project, We're a project youth, by the way, right? I'm not going to lie, right? We're in phase 3 now, next season, And you got Joe Willock playing well. You got Sean Longstaff playing well, Elliot Anderson's coming through the ranks as well. He's been great. And the front three, I mean, Miggy, first half of the season, fantastic. Second half of the season, slipping back a little bit, but I think he had a good season. But yesterday, 3 great chances, and he hasn't got any positives again. Isak, I want to talk about Isak quickly, right? I know you've got a few something. Alex Isak, 63 million quid, 10 goals this season. That guy is destined for the top. I'll tell you what, if he carries on for next season, my God, we got a special player on his hands. I mean, I know, Doug, you're a big fan of Isak, are you? You're a massive fan of him as well. And
I've watched a lot of sort of Spanish football with obviously Real Sociedad, and I thought he was the real deal at the time. So look, he's been fabulous since he came to Newcastle.
Yeah. 63 million quid he costs as well. And people say that is slight. Yeah, we all know that. He needs to beef up. We know that. But there's skills on his feet, man. That assist against Southampton for Joe Linton in the Carling Cup semi-final was amazing. If that was brilliant, what about the one at Everton? I mean, agreed with Andrew, by the way. That assist there, 4 players around him. Yeah, I know it's Everton, but he still beat a lot of them. Pulled it back to Jacob Murphy, 4-1. I tell you what, right? I mean, Isak's going to make a difference next season. We're challenging for the title next season, and I think Isak's going to be up there. He's going to be key for us, big style. I mean, I don't know what you think, guys.
I think Isak's a great player. Very, very good player. And I tell you what, Eddie has not only brought in talent, but he's also transformed the talent that was already there. So Joe Linton, like I was saying earlier on the season, John, I think, he's a completely different player to what he was, under Steve Bruce. Under Steve Bruce, to be honest, Joe Linton wouldn't get anywhere near the Brazilian squad. Let's be honest, he wouldn't get anywhere near the San Marino squad playing like he was. So to be honest, he's done fantastic. Eddie, deserves so much credit, and I'm pleased. He's one of our own, isn't he, Matt?
Certainly is. Certainly is. He's done a cracking job there.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Bruce has come out and said, right, that there's a plane in there, right? The problem is, he couldn't coach him at all whatsoever. I mean, he's played that hand to Eddie Howe, Eddie Howe comes in and said, yo, I want a word with you, my guy, right? Talks to him and said, why are you not doing that under Steve Bruce? What's your problem? Talk to us. He did. And guess what? He said, okay, cool. We're going to see this as a box-to-box midfielder. And you know what? The guy that couldn't press for Toffee, scared of making a tackle, right? He goes in there and he smashes him up every time. I think there's one tackle he went through him as well. He got booked for that, and I thought he was going to go red for. I can't remember who it was. Might have been last season, but I tell you something, right? Joe Linton, I mean, for me, my player of the season could be Bruno, but for me, it could have been Joe Linton. But for me, in 18 months under Eddie Howe, Champions League, right? Doesn't go. Joe Linton, Champions League go together, right? And secondly, right, he gets a Brazilian national squad. For 27, he's come on 27, by the way, right? And I tell you what, I mean, I'm glad that he's in that squad because I think he can make a difference in that team. And he's going to get exposure now, Joe Linton. They're going to think, we like this player. We like that player. He's only got 2 years left on his contract, by the way, so they need to get him tied down very, very quickly. Otherwise, he can get trapped. Liverpool wants him, by the way, Doug, Joe Linton. And you're not getting him. You're not getting it. You're not.
Would you be happy with Joe Linton, Doug?
This is the first I've heard about it. I'll be honest, John. I have not been focused on transfer rumours at the moment because we seem to be getting linked with every Tom, Dick, and Harry for our midfield right now. I mean, I could probably get Craig to play in it in midfield. I could probably get you to play in the midfield, John. Like we have a very badly aging midfield at this moment in time. So basically, any transfer rumor that just basically has anything to do with the midfield, I'm like, yeah, mute. So yeah, I am not focusing on any transfer rumors until the window's open.
Well, to be honest, Doug, if you want somebody with a dodgy ankle, I might be your man. But to be honest, I don't think.
Who's Liverpool's main three midfield? Is it Fabinho, Henderson, and Thiago, isn't it?
Yeah. Which I was told earlier that apparently we have a combined age of our midfield. I think it goes to about 90. So you see they see where herein lie, where's the problem? So it's an aging midfield, very very badly aging midfield.
Yeah,
well,
that is the thing. That's the thing because you need to freshen that team. I think Alexis McAllister could be a done deal. I think you need him in your midfield. Then you need a world-class midfield, someone like Gatti as well in the holding role. I mean, it'd be good for you guys, you know what I mean? Him and Lacaster in the holding will be fantastic, but we're after Gatti as well. But you know what it is, right? I mean, this season, I think it's going to be a record. I think it's going to be at least $1 billion is going to be spent in the summer transfer as well, because Liverpool's going to improve, Chelsea's going to improve, and Tottenham's going to improve. The problem is, right, they do not finish below Newcastle United again, because we have rattled them this season. The media, right, do not want us anywhere near the top four, right? And all these journalists, right, are saying that we were everyone's second team. Not anymore, right? I tried to get this guy on my show called Nick Parker, whatever his name is, right? Asked him if I'd come on my show and discuss about Newcastle United. And guess what? He bottled it. He bottled out. He bottled it. You see, all these journalists gives all this, right? They gives the time. They talk the part, they look the part, but when it comes to nitty gritty, they bottle it, just like other people.
Well, hold that thought, John, because I will come back to that. Because, to be honest, Eddie, personally, from my perspective, hasn't. Okay, Newcastle got this great big pot of money, but at the same time, you haven't spent ridiculous amounts in doing what you have to do, and so that is the big thing in football. Is not how much you spend, because let's be honest, and there is a comment. I've got loads and loads of comments coming in, so I'm just going to sift through a couple of these. But let's look at Chelsea, for example, and what Chelsea have done, and how much they've spent, and they finished. Was it 12th, 13th?
12th.
Yeah,
12th.
They finished below Crystal Palace, for goodness sake.
And Fulham.
There we are.
So we beat Chelsea. We'd have probably finished above them and got points yesterday. So.
And Alex, you beat but you beat Chelsea as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone was beating Chelsea this season.
I mean, Southampton did the double over. Southampton. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Southampton did the double over Chelsea season, 1-0 away, and it was 2-1 at home.
Yeah,
Southampton decided to start playing.
But then, like, I think we've talked about this before, haven't we, Craig? How Southampton is so funny. Like, you think they're going to be absolutely destroyed, like with the Liverpool game.
Yeah.
And then they come out. Like, with the big teams, we're not so bad at the moment. But then it's like the teams that you really think they should have this, they absolutely get destroyed. So it just doesn't make sense.
6-pointers, like against ourselves at St Mary's, let's be honest, it was a huge game for Southampton. Of course, we got the victory, and it was the victory that set us on our way. And then, of course, against Leeds. Let me just sift through some of these comments, because Connor, you're going to like this one. Everton crowd was immense yesterday. Glad their passion got them over the line. There you are. That's a good comment from Andrew Williams there. Spider, I agree. You are great. Spider LFC, you're a fine specimen. Spider LFC and Brian Morrissey, I think. No, Spider LFC is liked by a lot of people, by the looks of things. 7 years ago, we won the Premier League title. We will come on to that as well, because that's a big, big point, what's happened at Leicester. feel free really to come on the show. You're more than welcome. Somebody, Yank Talking Smack, has put Chelsea and with lots of laughing emojis. Leeds deserved their relegation for Big Sam Gamble and the timing of it. Leicester have sleepwalked their way into mediocrity. I was going to struggle saying that word. I sometimes struggle with words, don't I, Matt? As you know.
Yeah, you do, bless you.
Yeah, after a night of the camel. But yeah, Big Sam, to be honest, I've got a point to make about that. I think if Big Sam had been appointed earlier, they might have stood more of a chance. The thing is,
I feel like he's so overrated. I feel like he's just all this. It's just.
I think the fact that we're talking about Sam Allardyce in 2023, when literally, like, you have like Hodgson, you have Allardyce, you have Warnock. Like, this is 2023, not 2003. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And no, I absolutely agree with what Alex says. I think Sam Allardyce is a dinosaur. I think he's a dinosaur of a manager, and I'm sorry, but the fact that Leeds have been relegated does not surprise me. You literally go from Bielsa to basically playing very, very attacking football, to basically go to Jesse Marsh, who wants to defend, and then you basically go from Garcia, who wanted to play like a low block, like Leeds have had 3 or 4 different systems this season. Is it any wonder that they were conceding so many goals? They conceded 78 goals this season. That wasn't as worse as the other season there. I think they conceded about 100 Premier League goals or something the last game season. Leeds concede way too many goals, and you can quite clearly see where their problem lies, is keeping clean sheets. And it's the same with Leicester as well, because prior to the World Cup, Leicester only kept, I think, 1 clean sheet in the last 22 games, obviously before the Newcastle game, of course. So again, these two deserve to go down for me, because both of them can't defend.
No, that's fair enough. With regards, and Manny, you've been quite quiet so far, but what is your view on Sam Allardyce and what he's done at Leeds?
Yeah, the reason why I'm quiet, Craig, is because I'm actually watching the repeat telecast of the Aston Villa Bournemouth game, and I've just seen Emi Martinez pull off a worldie from that Philip Billing free kick. Sorry to mention that, Craig and Matt, but
that's fair enough.
I mean, that's now you boys know why I rate him so highly. In my opinion, easily up there as one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League and the world. Doug, I know Allison is also up there. I rate him highly too. But back to your question on Allardyce, I think it's fair to say that when it comes to managers like Allardyce, like Mick McCarthy, like Martin O'Neill, or what have you, they're pretty much, I wouldn't call them dinosaurs necessarily, but they certainly, I think the game has more or less moved on from them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Everything that Alex and others have said about Allardyce, I think when he was managing Bolton in the early 2000s, I mean, that was when he was easily at his peak, and he was obviously then known as a team which got a manager which got a team like Bolton to punch well above their weight. He used, of course, he based his success on a pretty robust defense, and of course, as an Arsenal fan, I remember the 2003 season only too well. We went to the Reebok Stadium and needed a win, and we were coasting, but then allowed Bolton to come back and draw 2-2, and eventually it was goodbye league championship. And but that was 20 years ago, and we're in 2023. And when you consider that he hasn't exactly been in work for so long, to try and expect him to come and perform a rescue job on a team that was shipping goals left, right, and center, that looked, destined to go down even before he was hired, it was asking a little bit too much of him, really. I mean, I know that Neil Warnock came over to Huddersfield Town, back to Huddersfield Town, I should say, and performed an absolute miracle in getting them to stay up. Well done him. And he's made it clear that that's his last managerial act, and what a way to end it. With regard to Allardyce, I think it is quite fair to say that he's a little bit limited. After his very short stint as England manager, he had the chance to try to redeem himself by managing Everton, and that didn't turn out too well. So I think it's a case of, and pertinently, we've got to say that after Everton, he never really was able to get another decent managerial job. So I wouldn't say that he's necessarily overrated, but football has moved on from managers like him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I kind of understand where you're coming from. You know, he did a very, very good job at Sunderland years ago, but I think he was always going to struggle with that job. 4 games to go. You know, they should have, if they felt he was the right man, should have made it earlier. But I think a lot of that come from. And by the way, whilst we're on Leeds, big happy birthday to Dan Moylan from the Square Ball. He was going to join us, but it is his birthday, so happy birthday. But like he said, he is celebrating it with relegation for Leeds. So not particularly that much, but you never know. Next season, Dan, you know, fingers crossed.
Dan, if I can just offer a word of advice for you, if you want a way to try to forget your troubles, just play that famous number from The Life of Brian. It's what everybody does.
Fair enough. There we are, Dan. So if you are watching, which I think he might be, there we are. That is Manny's top tip. Just going to go through the rest of these comments. Andrew Williams, all right, Connor, he said. So there we are. One for you, Connor. Hey, here we are. Somebody's mentioned Bournemouth for us, Matt.
Yay.
Big, massive props to Bournemouth for staying up in the Prem. Written
Well
by everybody, wasn't we? Well, everybody was turning round. Benjamin Bloom turned round and said, oh, there's no hope in hell of them staying up. They've got no hope in hell.
Didn't think we'd stay up at the time.
Exactly, coming out of Liverpool and having that call with Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton, as you know, that I had, and they were turning around and saying, "Oh, you've got to give him time. You've got to give Scott Parker time. At the end of the day, you know, he's got you out of the Championship." And I hark back to those games, you know, that I've mentioned so many times before, where Peterborough, we didn't beat Peterborough last season. Derby, you know, we got beat, you know, away from home. It was just some of the football. If we think back to it, Matt, I think that it was well justified why a lot of people didn't think we was going to stay up, because Scott Parker, of course, he did badly at Fulham in the Premier League. He got them there. Don't get me wrong. He got them to the Premier League, but at the same time, you know, he was appalling when he got them there. He dropped Mitrovic for some reason. Don't understand that at all. But, you know, some of the games, you know, we got 37 points out of the first 15 games last season. And really, in all honesty, you know, at that stage, at the point in time, I thought that we was going to go up as champions, going for a points record. Instead, what Scott Parker did was he started piss-arsing around with it, went too defensive at times, and it nearly collapsed. And I think that fed into the start of this season, because against Aston Villa, we was fine. Not a problem against Aston Villa. But then when Man City, Arsenal, and then Liverpool come up, he went way too defensive, just allowed them too much time to pass in front of us, and they just picked us off, didn't they, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, funny old season last season and the start of this one. But wow, we're in the league and we've stayed up. That's the main thing.
Exactly. Gary O'Neill has been criticised left, right, and centre by our fans, which I think is quite unfair. But I think he's learned on the job. You know, it's not been easy for him.
Of course he is. I mean, like I've said to you before, you know, no one can take away from Gary O'Neill what he's done this season. Is he the man to take Bournemouth forward the long term? That's debatable. But nobody can take away from him what he's managed to achieve this season. Obviously, they had a strong January transfer window, which has obviously helped. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, we didn't really have much of transfer window, did we? We had a couple of players come in, but January we boosted the squad, and Gary's worked with the players and has managed to keep us up. The thing for me is it's a bit disappointing to lose the last 4 games of the season. I'm surprised we lost all 4 of them, to be honest. So that's a bit disappointing. But in terms of whether he's going to be the man to take us forward, I think the first sort of 8 to 10 games of next season would determine that.
Yeah, definitely. We do have another guest backstage, and welcome to the show, Carl. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good. And yourselves?
Yeah, all
Big
good,
up,
mate.
Carl. Big up, Carl,
All
mate.
good.
What's happening?
Well, I'm guessing that are you an Arsenal fan?
I'm an Arsenal fan for my sins.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's go to Arsenal actually, because Arsenal, we're talking about one team that had a fantastic season in ourselves, managing to survive the drop. But Arsenal at the other end of the league had an excellent season, but it just seemed to collapse at the end. And Alex will probably be able to jump in here as well with that 3-3 draw at St Mary's. What did you make of it, Kyle?
Shambles.
Shambles.
Yeah, disgusting, embarrassing, and everything else that was with us. The club is finished. It's been finished for the last 20, 25 years. I'm an Arsenal fan for the last 38 years. I go across 3 or 4 times a season to watch them playing. I follow this club every day of the week. They're in my veins every day of the week. And I'm telling you that this club is going nowhere fast. And this second place that everyone's talking about. Did you see the state of our fan base yesterday in the Emirates Stadium? Singing songs about Mikel Arteta, who's achieved absolutely zero. 3 full years in charge, no trophy. The 3 full years I'm talking about, not Emery's team. And then also, they're shouting for Shaka. Shaka, don't go. Shaka, stay. Shaka should have been gone 6 years ago. Useless. That's the mediocrity. That's the standards this club have. That's the standards this fan base have. They're all clapping and standing ovation. For what? Because what I saw this season was a failure. We walked out the FA Cup. We walked out the Carling Cup. We got destroyed by Sport. Lisbon came to the Emirates Stadium and gave us a football lesson in the Europa League. So we put all the eggs into the one basket to win the Premier League. 8 points clear. And now we're 5 points behind them. So that was 15 points. It's the worst turnaround in Premier League history. And our fan base is celebrating. Instead of booing those players and the manager off the field yesterday for failure. It's embarrassing. It's a joke. And we're going nowhere. Everyone's talking about this Champions League next season.
Kyle.
For what? We can't compete in the Europa League. Never mind the Champions League. Whole thing's a farce. And we fail again next season. I'm going to say something here because you're all have to come back to me. Arsenal Football Club will not win the league title for another 10 years.
Kyle, can I say something, Kyle? John here, Newcastle United fan. Big up to you, mate. So I've seen you on channel as well, like Jez as well. Jez is a great guy, and I spoke to him once as well. Yeah, you're 8 points clear, and you lost the title by 5 points. That's a 13-point swing. It's like being in the flipping government, I mean, that's a lot. But for me, right, I mean, at the end of the day, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'll be disappointed as well, because at the end of the day, 13 points is a swing is a lot. Do you know what I mean? But do you think Mikel Arteta is going to be under pressure next season to be in a position that he's got a chance? Because Newcastle's going to spend, my team, we're going to spend big as well in summer. But I've always said that Newcastle will probably win the title before Arsenal, United as well. But I tell you something now, I'm not sure Arteta's the right man for the job, you know. I'm not so sure. But if you want to win the title, you have to get a bigger name like Don Carlo, yeah? Someone like Diego Simeone, yeah? But Arteta has done better, but I don't think he's going to win you a title, mate. I really don't.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say this to you now, as a Newcastle fan. I want to ask you one question, and all I need is one answer. How long is Eddie Howe in charge of Newcastle United Football Club?
He's been in charge of Newcastle for 18 months. Yeah, he's been there. He came in, right, and he was second bomb in the league, right, got us 11th. The following season, he got us 4th.
Yeah. And now, let me tell you, in 18 months, from second to bottom of the table, he started getting Champions League football for Newcastle United. Our Joker is in charge for the last 3 full seasons and a half a season before that. 8th, 8th, and 5th, and 2nd this season. And the fan base are celebrating that he's the best manager since sliced bread. That's the mentality that our club has. Ten Hag. How long is Ten Hag in charge of Man United?
Season.
Yeah. What have they achieved? Champions League football, one major trophy, with the 50-50 chance of winning a second major trophy. And then the fan base are all about, are you joking? Are you actually joking? The man has to go, and he has to go now. He's not good enough.
Okay. I mean, if you want Arteta to go, who would you have to replace him? I mean, Don Carlo could be available. I mean, if he sat around Madrid, Simeone could be available at the end of the season.
Yeah. Even Pochettino at that time.
Yeah, gone to Chelsea, mate.
Anybody but Arteta. Jesus Christ. Why do the fans love this man so much? Maybe they don't want to win anything. My standards for Arsenal, I go into every season expecting Arsenal to compete to win the top major trophies. That's elite sport. Not to be messing around like they have been for the last year. Embarrassing. Lads, listen, it's 30 years since we won a European Cup. 30 years. 1994, we beat Parma in the Cup Winners' Cup final. 30 years. 50 years coming up. Now, since we last won a league title. That's 50 years of failure.
Cow.
It's unacceptable for the size of Arsenal Football Club.
I understand your pain, man. I understand your pain. We haven't won the title since 1927. We haven't won the domestic cup since 1955. We haven't won the European trophy since 1969. We haven't won Nout for 54 years. And hopefully we win something under Eddie Howe. That's a long time for Newcastle United not to win a trophy. A long time. Near misses as well. Being in the cup finals.
You're on a good pattern at the moment, I think. And I think that you will buy smart again and you will compete again next season. I love Newcastle, by the way. I'd be a big admirer of Newcastle Football Club. Big admirer.
Yeah.
Great club.
Thank you.
But listen, I'm sitting around. There's friends of mine on Facebook. There's friends of mine here on the streets. Kyle this and Kyle that. Kyle you're negative. Kyle you're this. Kyle you're that. I have lived and breathed this club all my life. I saw us going to Anfield in 1989. My first cup that I ever saw us win was in 1987 against Liverpool. 2 goals. I have seen this. I've seen us lifting up trophies, major trophies. I've seen the legends. Now we have Odegaard's club. It's embarrassing. Are you joking me? The whole thing. We're getting dogs, and we're calling the dog Wing. What have we won? Jesus Christ. Players on hundreds of thousands a week to lift morale.
Here's a question, though, for you both. And Manny, you might be able to get involved in this as well. Because, of course, Arsenal will finish second. You know, I did predict at one point during the season that you was going to win the league. I said that actually from quite early on when you actually beat us at Dean Court 3-0 in that game. And I thought Arsenal were fantastic. You know, okay, Scott Parker did defend quite heavily, but surely you're not that far off challenging properly. You know, at the end of the day, you have challenged properly because you've been top of the league for the majority of this time this season. But surely you're not that far off getting yourselves across the line.
Here's the thing, though, Craig, and I think Kyle's going to sort of agree with me on this. One of the factors in which, which has sort of helped us to have the season we had, is the fact that several teams which were expected to, challenge us have pretty much had poor seasons, and Manchester City as well, mind you, were quite awful at the first part of the season. But in addition, I think the World Cup being in December pretty much, it sort of shook a lot of seasons up because many clubs as international players were focusing on staying fit for Qatar. They didn't want to get injured and miss out on the plane. And, the signs were there that we weren't exactly the finished article. When we lost to United at Old Trafford, that was a sign that, we still had to do some work tactically. But again, of course, you can only beat the teams that are in front of you, and we were able to do that for the most part. But then we hadn't played Manchester City prior to the World Cup, and there were a lot of fixture cancellations and postponements, so we hadn't really been tested as such. And when you take a look at the spine of our squad, there are several players in the team who may perhaps have some talent, but don't really have what you would call the spine to really work hard and try and get get over the line that way. And Kyle, I'm actually glad that he's come on because I think he knew that John was on this link and he asked me for the link, but then I think he found your channel and then you're kind enough to post the link and he came on. He mentions that he knows he supported the team for several years, watched them win in 1989. And I tell you right now, that team was a team that had, courage in great measure. And I'm really sorry, Douglas, but we will be bringing this up quite a bit because, the circumstances of that game to win the way they did, I don't think that could ever be repeated. And then in 91, under Graham, we won again. So when you take a look at the spine of those teams, maybe they weren't quite as young or talented as this team, but what they had were they had a manager who made it crystal clear that winning was the only thing and they had to win it with class and dignity. And also they weren't willing to, become too emotional. And you certainly wouldn't see any of the players then do what Granit Xhaka did to Trent Alexander-Arnold at Anfield. Called himself the captain without the armband, and he goes and does something like that. As a captain, you've got to lead by example, and he failed to do that. And when you take into consideration the fact that several of our more talented players also didn't really have the best of seasons, and several of them also faded away, quite a few of these players, mind you, could very well be leaving the club very soon. We could run the risk of losing Thomas Partey and Jorginho, so that leaves our midfield even weaker. And so we have to depend on trying to get Declan Rice any which way. I don't know if we possibly can, though, because of the costs involved. And it's like we also have a situation where the owners aren't willing to offer more money than necessary, because if it's made clear that we need to spend big and try and get some really good players in, and we don't have enough money, I mean, what's going to happen? So for all talk about how, from some fans, how we may not be far off, the way we've conducted ourselves in these transfer markets is proof that we're just not really ready. And as Kyle has said, we might not even challenge next season. So unless we're really careful, unless we're really, really serious with regard to building on this, unless we're really serious about building on this and making sure that we do, build on this and challenge by seriously going out and getting some proper players who will add to the team, and also trying to make sure that more and more players who aren't producing end up, being sent on their merry way, I don't believe that we'll repeat this season's heroics. And it could very well be, as Kyle has said, a long time before we even come back to this. I mean, we've given Reece Nelson a new contract after he rejected us twice. And what exactly has Reece done all season? I don't want to mention what he's done all season out of respect to you and Mr. Harrison. Apart from that, he's had a few good moments. He's certainly done better than Edward Nketiah. But again, it's about insisting on standards from everyone, and not just a few select players with big reputations. You can't go soft on the Hale End boys just because they are Hale End boys. And even a few Hale End boys have gone. I believe a certain Mr. Willock is having the time of his life with Newcastle. And, of course, Villa TV still in the chat. He knows all about a certain Mr. Martinez. In a nutshell, Craig, unless we really get our act together and prove that we are serious about this by making sure that we insist on better standards and really get some proper players coming in, and unless we have a manager who is also quite serious about attempting to play to win as many trophies as possible and not, throw all his eggs in one particular basket, I don't see us, repeating our second place finish. I mean, we should be able to challenge for a top 4 again, and people are going to be happy with that. Top 4 being a trophy and all that. But it's going to be a long time before we even are seriously talked about as title contenders, and I think we will need a new manager for that.
We do have one comment here from Andrew Williams. What is your view on Solanke yesterday? Is he always that dirty? Connor, do you want to answer this? Or do you feel that Solanke was dirty yesterday against Everton?
Yeah, the altercation that caused obviously the scuffle.
Yes.
That was the only one where it really pointed out where I was like, "What's he doing?" But it was just so random. Like Pickford's standing there and he just purposely pulls him down, and I just don't understand why he did it. It really, and then obviously it blew up. You had Yerry Mina. I don't think bit him, but I also can't tell you what he was doing, screaming into his chest. I don't know what he was doing. It was really bizarre to watch because obviously, Solanke was saying about his chest, but if looking at the replay, it doesn't bite him, but he does scream into his chest really weirdly.
It's a bit stupid considering how much was on the line for Everton. And that was after going 1-0 up, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, like that's one of those where you don't even have to bite people. Like we've seen people get sent off for insinuating a headbutt and not actually headbutting, just the movement of a head. So if you're opening your mouth and putting it near a player, whether you bite them or not, the different referee at a different time. And I know they checked it. They did VAR check it supposedly. Yeah. But a different referee at a different time in a different mood. That's a red card. But I had a feeling Solanke could be up for it. He's former Liverpool as well. And I'm pretty sure the crowd were giving it just as much towards him as well afterwards. But yeah, I can't tell you, him and Yerry Mina, I don't know what was going through their heads in that 5 minutes.
I tell you what, let's go on to Matt about that whole subject. Solanke, he's not always that dirty at all, is he? He's not. He's one of the calmest players on the pitch normally for us.
Yeah, normally. But like Connor just said, with the whole Liverpool connection as well, he was up for it yesterday, and he was going to be getting stick from the stands, wasn't he? So, but yeah, not normally I would describe Dom like that, but he was a little bit yesterday, in fairness.
Yeah, definitely.
And it would be interesting to see what Mina did do. I've seen it replayed on Sky a couple of times today. But it's still, even from the angles they've shown, it's difficult to see what Mina's actually doing. And if he's screaming at his chest, then
it's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah,
really is bizarre.
It's a bizarre situation, but yeah, I would normally describe Dom Solanke as a player like that. To be fair.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to sift through some comments. I think Alex has left us as well. She must have had to go and do something. But just a couple of comments as well here. Rennie P said, I know Brian Morrissey. That was from earlier on. Ewan, I am not an Everton fan, but a club of their size, their history and tradition should be nowhere near the bottom of the table. That is how badly run they are. Bill Kenwright going, do you reckon, Connor?
I think it depends. Apparently, with the takeover, both MSP and I think it was 777 had said that they wanted changes at board level. I mean, he's an old man now. He does every now and then says he's not well and he's an ill man. And you're like, well, just go then for the sake of your health as well as the football club. Just go if that's the case and you're ill. But I think with the takeover, changes are going to happen, and I think he's the most obvious candidate to leave the boardroom, and so he should. I think he's past his time in Everton now.
No, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair
Connor,
enough.
if I could just jump right in here, mate, because it's wonderful to talk to you again, by the way. I remember we were discussing managerial appointments, and I made it very clear that you had to stay away from Rafael Benitez, far, far away as you could. And, of course, sadly, he went on, to manage you lot and got sacked very early. But, you lot actually had a manager that both Kyle and I would love right now, a certain Mr. Ancelotti. Now, of course, he came in to replace Marco Silva, if I'm not wrong, and sort of helped you stay up. I believe he took you to a mid-table position, then had a full season where at one point you were second in the league at Christmas. And I thought he actually did a really good job for you lot under the circumstances. In fact, I really liked his approach and the way he was able to get the best out of the likes of DCL. And even when Theo Walcott was there for a time, he looked rejuvenated. Obviously, that's another story. He went on to Southampton. But did you enjoy having Don Carlo at Everton? And why do you think he made the decision to leave after that one full season?
Yeah, I loved it. It's a pipe dream. It be like going on a night out and pulling like an absolute 10. It's not going to happen again for us. It's not going to happen again. But it was great to think back on. It's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. I think he went though because it's Real Madrid. Like he says, he loves Everton still, but he's very honest that he loves Real Madrid. And when Real Madrid come knocking, you don't say no, do you? Really? He's gone on to win another Champions League with them as well, so you could say he made the right choice. And I don't know if he was ever going to get what he was promised either. We supposedly were going to give him a war chest, but realistically, apparently Perez called him up, and was talking to him about the state of Madrid, and he was like, well, what are you going to do? And Perez was like, well, I need a manager. I'm looking for one. And Carlo Ancelotti turned around and went, you found him. I'll come join you. I think it comes down to he was managing Everton and Real Madrid came knocking, and it's Carlo Ancelotti. He probably he should be at Real Madrid more than Everton, realistically. So
it had nothing to do with the fact that I think you mentioned the war chest. It had nothing to do with the fact that maybe he predicted that some things at Everton weren't going to be as he had hoped they would be, or what do you think?
No, I think it was mainly Real Madrid because he was Farhad Nashiri, as apparently Tifo did a video on it a couple of years ago when we finally got him. I'd been chasing him for years. He'd been his dream Hollywood signing manager, and he finally got him. So I can imagine Farhad Nashiri probably offered him whether he could fulfill these promises, but he probably offered him everything he could to get him there. But like I said, Real Madrid, if I was a football manager and Real Madrid came knocking and I was, not at Everton because it's different, but if I was at a Premier League club where we were, I'd probably go to Real Madrid in a heartbeat too.
We have got a lot of love for you in these comments, John. To be honest, I'm just looking at the time. I'm 45 minutes behind in the comments. Being just focused on the conversation. That I've got loads of comments flashing up here.
Big up to the people in Newcastle.
Yeah, we've got a Leeds fan in the house. I don't know, Mr. Tom, if you heard our comments on Leeds.
Leeds fan is great guy.
Feel free, everybody, to get involved. The StreamYard link is just scrolling below. So just remember JM883TN4UI. You can pop that in after StreamYard.com /. Dan Burney's quality, Anfield Road TV. Anfield Road TV, feel free to come on. It'd be a pleasure to speak to you again. There's a Villa fan in there. Keep it sharp, Brian. I tell you what.
Typical Brian. He's always late on the show as well, but he's a good guy. He's learning.
I tell you what, let's go on to Aston Villa, actually, because Bailey, Villa are the only team. No, actually, we haven't discussed Liverpool, have we, either, Doug? But we'll come to Liverpool in a moment. But I tell you what, let's discuss Aston Villa, because what a season you've had. At the start of the season, you were beaten, by ourselves at Dean Court, and then, since that point, you have been absolutely fantastic. Unai Emery has got you flying up the league and European place.
Yeah, of course, at the start of the season, we had Gerard, and it didn't go well. The performances wasn't turning into proper football, so we had to get another manager in, and we got Unai Emery, and I think he's been class. I think getting from 17th, 18th, all the way up to 7th at the end of the season is really good. We beat top teams as well, like Manchester United, Brighton. We did a double over them this season. So yeah, I think it is a good season. I think we just needs to get new players in now for this in Conference League for next season, and hopefully win it. I think we're like the third best team in it to actually try and win that thing. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's a really good season. Hopefully, sign players. Of course, players will probably leave us as well. Like Leon Bailey, I don't really rate him. More players, but yeah, we've had a really good season, and yeah.
There we are. Yeah, I think you've been absolutely outstanding this season, to be honest, Bailey. And I think, full credit, because at the start of the year, under Steven Gerrard, let's be honest, and Connor's just had to leave us. So thank you, Connor. If you're still watching, thank you for joining us. But let's talk about the start of the season under Steven Gerrard. What was it that Gerard was doing so wrong compared to what Unai Emery's doing now?
I think Gerard just didn't go attacking, to be fair. I think he put everyone behind the ball, and when a team put everyone behind the ball, it doesn't work. And I think that's what Gerard did. He didn't go attacking. I think we had only one shot in every game under him, and we had to get him out. I didn't want him in before. I knew it was gonna go downhill, but we got him in, and I think Emery is attacking manager. I think he wants the wins. He wants to be a class manager to try and get a club into the Champions League or Europa League. And he got a 7th, and he has now a whole season next season to try and get us near that top 4. But we'll see what happens next season.
No, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. I tell you what, throw it out to the room. Did anybody else expect Aston Villa to do as well as what they have done in the end?
I actually predicted, Craig, that at the beginning of the season that they would finish quite as high as 6th or 7th. I think 6th was my final prediction. I believed that given the way they were capable of playing and the team they had, they should have challenged for the Europa League places. Obviously, how they performed under Gerrard this season, as Bailey has said, it wasn't a good start. But to get the ex-Arsenal manager, Unai Emery, who Kyle remembers well, of course, it was a bit of a masterstroke, because Emery's the type of manager who works really well with these middle-of-the-road teams and gets them, punching above their weight. And I think what he did was, in addition to, I think he does have a tendency in some ways to be a little bit defensive near the end of the game and sometimes that costs him. In fact, there have been quite a few games during his run-in that they could have perhaps won or at least drawn, and that could have been the difference between, in my opinion, either making the Conference League and making the the Europa or even the Champions League, perhaps. I suppose when he came into that Villa team, they were so low on confidence, so down in the dumps, that he had to try to solidify them. He also was smart enough to make the best use of their midfielders. And in Ollie Watkins and Leon Bailey at the time, he had some decent attackers. Danny Ings was still scoring goals, but he ended up getting sold to West Ham. And now is, of course, one match away from being a European champion himself in the Conference League. He's improved their confidence. He's obviously man-managed the situations a lot better. The whole Ming situation, I think I've mentioned this several times, it was handled very, very badly indeed. And I think Emery was able to talk to Tyrone and get him, believing in himself again. Obviously, making John McGinn the captain was also a masterstroke because he's had a wonderful season. He's also managed to improve Emi Martinez in a way that he's got him playing a lot more from the back. I value him highly as a wonderful old school all round goalkeeper, but he's now added that feather to his cap, and I think he probably might need to work a little bit more on trying to maintain that sort of attacking tempo whenever he possibly can and make sure he gets some players who don't tire very easily. But, for what he's done this season, I mean, with all due respect to Eddie Howe, when he took over Newcastle, and John, you're welcome to disagree with me on this.
Yeah.
There have been calls for Howe to be made manager of the year, but when he started this season, he had a bit of a clean slate and he had the support of the board. And it was last season that he came in and rescued Newcastle from relegation and got them to a mid-table position. And I think Ches has said it perfectly. We can just see that again. Villa are going to be a threat next season, and they could certainly challenge a few teams if they get the players in. I think with Eddie Howe's accomplishments are not to be, sniffed at. Emery came in and only effectively had around about a half a season to try and set things right. And for what he's done to Villa within that half a season, taken them from the threat of relegation to European qualification, it's almost outrageous that he isn't really supported more in being nominated for Manager of the Season award, in my opinion. And no disrespect to Eddie Howe and some of the other managers who've been nominated, I really don't know why people in England don't like Unai Emery that much. And if I can just bring Kyle in, maybe he can tell me how he liked Unai Emery at Arsenal or didn't like him, and why he thinks the club that Emery doesn't really have that much popularity in England. Kyle, can you hear me?
Go for it, Kyle.
Yeah, I can hear you, Manny. Yeah, I can hear you. It's an interesting topic. Emery is an interesting topic because Emery is a top quality manager and he does not get the credit that he deserves. Look at the amount of European leagues that man has won in his career. He goes into Villa in a half a season, he has them in European football next season. Both our fan base thinks that Arteta is a better manager. I can guarantee you that if Emery would have been given a chance, he would have had us in Champions League football and at least had to win one major trophy with our club, Manny, by now. Guaranteed. By far a better manager than Arteta. The record is there. His CV is there for everyone to see. And I'm telling you that Aston Villa will be a threat next season. Newcastle United will be a threat. Man United will be a threat. Liverpool will be back. Pochettino will take no crap at Chelsea. They'll be back. Man City will always be there. I'm telling you now that Arsenal, with this fool in charge, nowhere to be seen next season for again. So bring back Emery.
Fair enough.
And on Eddie Howe, I mean, he's come in, right? You just when they come in, right, after Steve Bruce got the sack. We were second bottom of the table, right? Second bottom of the table, right? And then he had to keep us up, yeah, because it'd be embarrassing if we got relegated with new owners on board as well, with deep pockets, yeah? And all of a sudden, right, I mean, he got us 11th, Eddie Howe, right? The question is, can he improve the following season? And it's been proved. Honestly, yes, he did. We've got the best defence. Lost 5 games last season, well, 4 effectively, 2 by Liverpool twice. But you've got basically lost 5 games, right? Gave Man City a run for the money at St James's, right? We've beaten double over Spurs, take 4 points off Chelsea United, yeah? And all of a sudden, I mean, everyone thinks we're a fantastic team, yeah? And the thing is, I mean, we bought the players that we needed to be fixed, like defenders, Kieran Trippier, Dan Burn, Sven Botman, yeah? We have to change that defence because under Steve Bruce, we're leaking goals for fun. Joe Linton, right, saved his career. Eddie saved his career, right? 18 months. He's got a Brazilian national cap as well, first cap of Brazil, right? And all of a sudden, we finished third for a reason because we played some fantastic football. Now, should Eddie Howe get the manager of the year? In my opinion, yes, he should. But if Pep wins the lot, then I think he'll win it as well. But the thing is, in my opinion, I think they probably wait until after the Champions League, see if he does the triple. If he does that, he's going to get it, Pep. But anyhow, you're talking about Premier League, I think he should be man of the year because of what he has done. He got us Champions League for the first time in 20 years, yeah? He's got us playing exciting football, yeah? Changed Joe Linton, yeah, into one of the best box-to-box midfielders in the country, right? Jacob Murphy, bang average, yeah? Looks a good player, yeah, under Eddie, yeah? Improved. He improves young managers. I mean, Craig, you know for yourself, Eddie Howe improves young players, yeah? That's why we got a youth project, yeah? We're in phase 3 now, next season. But if Eddie Howe don't get the manager of the year, it's got to be the stewards because at the end of the day, he has been fantastic. He really has been brilliant this season. And there's even talk of him managing in England if Gareth Southgate walks away. Yeah, his name is going to be linked. But I'll say not yet. He's got to win a trophy first of us before he can figure out getting the England job. Simple as that. But I want Eddie Howe to be here for the next 5-6 years for what he has done. He's well loved in Newcastle. We love him, 100%. Plays is playing good football. If any guy's going to win us a trophy, right, within the next 3 years, it's Eddie Howe. If someone's going to get us to a title challenge, right, it's Eddie Howe because the players loves him. After games, he makes sure all the fans goes to the away support, clap him off always. Then after that, every time we get a photo taken in change rooms, you guys might have seen it. Always gets a photo taken in the change room if we win, and it gets posted out on Twitter. Yeah, every single time. The team spirit at that football club is amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing. He doesn't do prima donnas, right? There's talking about getting Neymar as well, but I don't want him anywhere near my football club. 700k a week. 700k a week. I don't want a circus in Newcastle United. I don't. And you know
Jason
why?
Tyndall would still be centre of attention, let's be honest, John.
Yeah, he would.
We love old JT.
He does. I'll tell you what, he loves getting the referee's face done as well, man.
He does. Go on, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Carry on.
No, sorry, it's all right. But,
I just tell you something.
Yeah,
I'll just tell you something, and I mean this. Newcastle United will win before Arsenal Football will ever win the game. And for Neymar, keep him out of the country. Never £7,000 a week for that waste of space.
700k a week.
Tell you, unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. But Newcastle United will win the Premier League before Arsenal Football Club win. I promise you that. You might all think I'm lunatic. I mean, yeah, straight up, it's going to happen.
I think you're right, mate. I think you're correct.
This management and this current ownership, Newcastle United are flying. What? Any must go to a second from the bottom of the Premier League, and now they're in Champions League football. They finished third. What do we do? Finish second. There's no difference. Yeah. Newcastle and Arsenal. What did we do? We got Champions League football, and everybody is raving about Arsenal. Stop. Drive me insane. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
I'll tell you what, another team that have had a bit of a tough season is that, and thank you for being so patient, Doug. Man in the top right-hand corner, Doug, of course, a Liverpool fan, and it didn't look like it was going to be bad because, of course, you thrashed us 9-0 at Anfield. I thought, right, okay, there we are. The litmus paper has been launched. Of course, Liverpool were a bit frustrated before that game. And, yeah, as much of it as it was our own doing, that result, as well as that, you know, Liverpool played fantastically well, but they didn't really get to those levels for the rest of that season, did they? And, well, in parts, of course, the Man United game, maybe.
Yeah, I think you summed up perfectly. I think we started really, really slowly. We had like draws against Fulham and Palace. Then we lost to Old Trafford, Manchester United, and then obviously that 9-0 game was a complete fluke. Because I don't think anyone expected us to score 9 goals after sort of, being in a very, very bad start to the season. But what I will say is I think injuries haven't helped us this season, because I've got to say Diaz and Jota have been sort of showing signs that when they're on form, they can be on form. And you look at the way that they played, especially Jota, actually. Since Jota's came back, he's actually got 7 goals and 4 assists. I think that is actually not bad, considering he's been out for 6-7 months, to say the very, very least. But this has stemmed from a lack of knowledge of improving the midfield. I think is a big factor of that. We haven't improved the midfield for a long time, and as well, we do have a very aging midfield, as I've said earlier tonight as well. We haven't been good enough. Simple facts: we have not been good enough this season. And if you look at the stats, like Newcastle United have been in the top 4 all season long. Liverpool haven't actually ever been in the top 4 all season. So the fact that we almost nearly, well, I say nearly, but almost had a chance to sort of stealing it, I think would have been very, very unfair. But then again, it does say if you are in the position that you are after 30 games, then obviously you do deserve it. But no, never in this season would I thought, well, we're going to get a top 4, we're going to get a top 4. There were signs that we were potentially not going to get in Europe as well. But it's just silly defeats away from home as well. How many teams can you say? And obviously, Bournemouth are in this, because you guys lost 9-0 to us. And I think you said something very, very interesting, which I thought was absolutely spot on, Craig, when you said when a team's been battered like that, you would expect a response. Now you got a response from Bournemouth. You actually beat us 1-0, and you thoroughly deserved it. Even if VAR gave us a dodgy penalty, like where's his arm supposed to go? I mean, I don't know what a handball is at the moment. So obviously Salah missed it, and you got your win and deserved. Lost against Nottingham Forest away. I know that the City ground can be a very, very toxic place in the best of times. Quite a very good atmosphere. It's obviously not in Forest. But when I look at the defeats that we've had, Leeds at home, like that was our only home defeat as well. It's the silly defeats away from home that has been a complete shambles this season. And obviously we did go to Leeds and won 6-1. Yeah, that was very, very good. There's not one game when I've looked at this season where I think we've played well. Even in the Manchester United 7-0, like Manchester United were in that game for about 35-40 minutes. And then obviously Gakpo gets the goal, and then Manchester United completely, implode. Then obviously we've had, Arsenal fans on tonight as well. I am going to say this now. The reason Arsenal's season collapsed was when Granit Xhaka literally decided to have a fight at Trent Alexander-Arnold, and it infuriated the Liverpool crowd. Now, Anfield is a very, very hostile place to visit, and especially when you get the crowd on song. That was the moment Arsenal's season just collapsed, because literally they didn't recover from that. 2-2 against West Ham, 3-3 against Southampton, 4-1 against City. And as they say, the rest is history. And obviously Manchester City have gone on to win the league. 4-4 doesn't surprise me yesterday, because we've looked really, really good going forward, but we've been absolutely shocking at the back. Defensively as well, I think we've been an absolute shocker, to say the very, very least. We just need to have a season where, okay, Europa League was the best thing we could have hoped for. Let's be honest. And you know what? I'm not one of these fans that's self-entitled, because I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, well, Liverpool should be in the top 4. They should be in the Champions League." No, they shouldn't. You should earn the right. You should earn the right to be in the Champions League. Newcastle have been out of the Champions League for 21, 22 years. They've earned their right to be in the Champions League. They've been fabulous all season. They've been in the top 4 all season. Liverpool haven't been in the top 4 all season. And yes, we've managed to beat Manchester City. We managed to beat Manchester United. Very, very good. but it's the defeats away at the likes of Wolves, Brentford. Okay, Brentford have been fabulous. Brighton have been fabulous. But it's those silly defeats away from home. 9 defeats in the season. 9 defeats. That's way too much if you want to be in the Champions League. Way too much. So I have no complaints. And, Firmino, Ox, Keita, and Mono are all leaving the club now. So it's going to be very, very intriguing to see where we sort of build. If we get McAllister, then absolutely fantastic. But as I said, I am not one to look at transfer rumours until the transfer window is open. But if you want me to say what my rating is for our season, I would say at best it's a 3 out of 10. Considering that we went from almost winning everything to basically being trophyless in the next in 12 months, it has been a shambles of a season, but we thoroughly deserve not to be in the Champions League this season.
You are very forthright, aren't you, Doug? And I think you mentioned Granit Xhaka there. I mentioned that. And I think as an Arsenal fan, I speak for other sensible Arsenal fans when I say I am glad he's leaving us. That was unforgivable what he did. And, it's moments like that make it really hard to love the fella. You mentioned also as well, interestingly, that you were wonderful going forward, but defensively you had a lot of issues. I think the issue with TAA at right back and Joe Gomez being forced to play as a centre back when in reality a right back is his best position, I think that's affected you guys really horribly, because I do seem to remember when you came to the Emirates and gave us a really, really good fight, TAA was subbed off at halftime and Gomez came on. And he had a really good game, keeping Gabriel Martinelli quiet. So why couldn't Klopp have seen the light and decided, you know what, I can't afford to keep playing TAA if he's going to become such a liability as right back? Because, we're not going to learn our lesson with Alexander Zinchenko as long as Mikel Arteta's in charge, but surely Klopp could have seen the signs and done whatever he could to try to make sure he got a proper formation. I would say that if your 2 best centre backs obviously would have been Konate and Van Dijk, although Van Dijk has looked rather shaky, but whenever Van Dijk and Konate have played, they looked really good. I would have liked to have seen Gomez, Van Dijk, Konate, and Robertson as your back 4, with maybe TAA as a sort of a wing back going forward, if you will. I'm not too sure how Klopp could have been so blind, so I wouldn't say blind, but a little bit so unaware of what was going on with his defense. And I think defense has been one of the bedrocks of your successes under him.
I think you're absolutely spot on when what you say, but Gomez this season, he's had one good game, Manchester City. Manchester City at home, he was absolutely amazing in that game. He was very, very good. Yes, you can obviously, talk obviously the Martinelli Gomez one, the Arsenal game. Unfortunately, injuries have not been kind to Joe Gomez, and I was amazed when we gave him a new contract. I thought this was a very, very interesting decision to make. And if I'm being honest, I would rather keep Nat Phillips now than keep Joe Gomez. That's the harsh reality of it. Is the Joe Gomez, for a player, he just needs a refresh. He needs a refresh in his career, and I think it should be away from Liverpool. Unfortunately, it's just not working for him. But I do have to say as well that there are a number of players in that squad that definitely need to be moved on. I think Tsimikas will probably be moved on. I think, I think they're probably going to be keeping Kelleher. I know that Brentford, Tottenham were in for Kelleher, but apparently Liverpool have said they'll take a mega offer to get Kelleher as well. But I look at the squad, and yes, the midfield needs strengthened. I think that's the most important thing. If we have a season where Jota, Diaz, Nunes, Salah, and Gakpo, Gakpo has been a big plus for me. He has been fantastic since he came in. The turn of pace. He's another one that seems to be getting goals left, right, and centre at this moment in time. And he's got very, very good movement as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do next season. I can guarantee you now we've actually asked for our first game to be away from home next season. I will guarantee you we are a 12:30 game or the Friday night game. They obviously sometimes you have a Friday night sort of start to the season. I bet you will be away against Luton Town. I can guarantee it now. We will be because we usually get a newly promoted side to start our seasons. The last 3 or 4 seasons, we've had a newly promoted side either at home or away from home. So I can guarantee you we're getting Luton Town.
That'd be an interesting one. It would be an interesting one, mate. John, I know that you have to head off, mate, but thank you so much again for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure to see you, and no doubt we'll catch up with you. I'll tell you what, we'll do a show during the summer because let's be honest, I can't stop talking about one man that is in charge of your football club, which is Sir Eddie Howe. He is worshipped here. I have asked for a statue to be put outside Dean Court. Still waiting back from, but to be honest, he deserves one, doesn't he, Matt? Let's be honest, Max, Eddie Howe deserves a statue outside our football grounds for what he did.
100%.
What I was going to say about it is, from it's like however long minor 17 was when we were in non-league. I think it's been like 15 years now, ever since we've got from non-league, right, to 9th in the Premier League, right, from our second season, and I think that's really good considering we finished top half as a team. Right, the council didn't want us to be a Premier League team, did they? Obviously, our stadium's small and that, but we are where we are, so that's all I can ask, and all.
You know what? A couple of people said that in the past, actually, that the council didn't want us to be a Premier League team.
Yeah, I get. The thing is, right? Yeah, because our stadium's small now. Eddie Howe should have a statue, and also I can't have the mick taken out of me now for Bournemouth being the smallest ground in the Premier League because it's Kenilworth Road now.
Sorry, lad, just touching on that, the council didn't even want Bournemouth promoted when we got promoted in 1987 to the old second division. So let alone the Premier League.
We're no small stadium no more. It's Dog Kenilworth Road.
But let's be honest, they've done well out of it as well, haven't they? They've done well out of it. The council, they can't moan. Let's be honest, they fuck everything else up. Excuse my French.
When do you reckon that our new stadium's going to get built then, Craig?
That's going way off subject, Max. You're looking at 2026 at least.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think I heard like a few years ago that we could have got kicked out the Premier League for having a small ground because you've had non-league teams and that bigger stadium than us. But
no, they can't kick you out. But let's be honest, there's lots of teams down there like Accrington Stanley and Fleetwood and Forest Green Rovers have got much smaller stadiums than we have. But yeah, I think, based on what we saw from Jim Favola the other day, this new stadium will happen. It's just a matter of when, because he kept saying new stadium, new stadium, new stadium. And then he reverted, oh, hang on a second, I made a mistake, and started going on about a refurbished Dean Court. It's a new stadium all day long, I think, that they've got in mind, which will be a shame because I'll miss Dean Court. And it would be great to get it refurbed and done up and looking a little bit posher than it is now, but it's an intimidating place to come. So I'd rather us stay at Dean Court, but I guess we've got to evolve with football and this football club. If we did go down to the Championship a second time, there's no guarantee that we'll come straight back up, at the current ground. We've been lucky we've done it twice in 4 seasons in the Championship. So, really, this is planning for the future. But I better let you go, John. But thank you so much, mate, because I know that you need to be up early, haven't you?
Yeah, I'll go be up at 5 o'clock. I'll go speak to me last and now go to bed. So, yeah, just, what I've been here sort of thing. It's been fantastic having us on, by the way. But before I go, I'll give me a shout out to my socials by any chance.
Crikey. Yes, I'm going to make you full screen for this, John. Go on, mate. Off you go.
Thanks very much, man. Thanks for watching us tonight from my side as well. And thanks for watching us as well and haven't subscribed. But if you do, please hit the likes, hit the subscribe as well. It's John_NEFC42 on Twitter. Also on TikTok, on Facebook, on YouTube's John Sinclair TV. Just hit that subscribe button, please. It'll help us out a lot, guys. And if you'd like to follow us on Insta, it's John Sinclair 50 as well, all the lower cases. And I'll do all the previews, reviews, watch-alongs, the Real Talk forums starting tomorrow if I get enough people to do it. And also, if you'd like to join us on the transfer window, sure, and things of sort, just help us out, guys. So I do plenty, but thank you so much.
That's all right, mate. Absolute
Cheers,
pleasure
John.
to have you on again, John. And we shall speak during the summer about Sir Eddie.
Definitely. And I'll get my people on so I'll share the stream as well.
Awesome, mate. Thanks so much, mate. And I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Take care,
Cheers,
guys.
John.
See you later.
Take care, mate.
You too.
See you, mate.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Bye-bye. If I could... Oops.
There we go. So, yeah. Where are we going next? Actually, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about Mr. Beehive of Football. If you can, do come on, and likewise, Luca, do come on as well, because you've got some really good points here. And AD744. I'm not sure which team you support, but there we go. But yeah, please do come on, because I tell you what. Let's talk Brentford. Should we talk Brentford? I think Brentford's a good place to go to because they've had a bloody good season as well.
Beat Man City 1-0 yesterday.
Yeah, did the double over Man City this season.
Yeah, a team that we've
Brentford
never ever beaten in the league. So
yeah, we haven't beaten Man City. We've beaten Brentford before. You know, we've beaten Brentford quite a lot of occasions, but a club. Well, when they were at Griffin Park, which was probably a similar sort of size to us, really, weren't they, Matt? Don't you think? You know, they've always been darting around the same sort of divisions.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Brentford loads of times back in the lower leagues. So
Pub on each corner.
pub on each corner, yeah, very famous. It's one of my old, favourite grounds to go to. It's like Kenilworth Road. I'm looking forward to going there again next season because you don't get stadiums and football grounds like that no more. So but yeah, no, Brentford always had a pub on each corner. It's kind of a model in some respects that we kind of want to aspire to.
Yeah.
What they've managed to achieve, them and Brighton, they're kind of the models that we need to be looking at to move that next step. It's not a case of staying up one year and winning the Premier League the next year, unless you're Leicester. You obviously done it that one time, but obviously we're not going to do that. So we need to, gradually improve, and I think they're two very, very good examples.
Yeah, completely agree. They've both got two similar different sort of analogies. See, Brighton are always preparing for the future, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
They're always looking and putting in place a contingency plan. They knew about De Zerbi before Potter even left the door. Whereas Brentford have got this scouting scheme around them, and they've got this B team, haven't they? Where was it Romeo Beckham? Was it?
Yeah.
Romeo Beckham was. But they've got this B team, which then, really feeds in to their main team. I'm sure that Mr. Beehive of Football Chat and Natalie Sawyer, who's been on the channel before, would probably be able to explain it a little bit more. She did explain it to me, actually, a while back. You might have to watch that previous opposition preview show with Natalie to actually get the whole feedback of that, because I couldn't recite it word to word of how it actually works. But I tell you what, that's what we're going to need to look to do to progress this football club moving forwards, don't we, really?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so, personally.
But, of course, Brentford just missed out. And Brighton managed to get Europe. So, yes, massive congratulations to Brighton. Let's be fair. From the Withdean to potentially the San Siro in How many seasons is that? Probably about 7. Is it 7 that the Amex has been open? It's not that long.
7, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be about 7 years.
Yeah, definitely. Max, I know you got to head off, mate, haven't you? So, yeah, I shall see you soon. We should have some more guests coming on very shortly because, Manny, we do have a request from one member. If Manny can send me the link, I'll come on.
Oh yeah,
I'll have a Brentford fan on.
absolutely. Mr. B is a really good fella. He's actually, on our Instagram mutual chat. So yeah, I will get to sending him the link right now.
Okie doke, mate.
Just to
Excellent.
touch back on Brentford very quickly.
Go on.
Their director of elite performance at that football club, I believe, is actually an ex-rugby pro.
I've heard this before. I'll tell you what.
I think of what his name was.
Let's get this man on because he might be able to explain.
Ben, is it Ben Ryan? Ben Ryan?
Is it Ben Ryan?
Yeah, I think I saw a little feature on Football Focus about him a little while ago. And I think he had
It's interesting, isn't it?
he's managed rugby teams, and I think maybe at an international level as well. And he's part of Brentford's backroom staff. It's quite an interesting.
Yeah, could well be. I tell you what, this Mr. Beehive of Football Chat might be able to explain it a little bit more, because hold that thought, Matt. I tell you what, hold that thought, and we'll find out for definite. Paul from Australia. Why was Tony allowed to play so much of the season being before ban? Surely helped Brentford to safety.
That's a funny one, isn't it? Because I think personally, the player should have been banned straight away. But I think the FA, it's a case of actually investigating it and proving that he was guilty before they actually implemented a ban, wasn't it?
It's a very difficult one. Now, I had this argument, didn't I? And I remember speaking to you about this, and I said, look, managers and players throughout the years have betted on all sorts of sports. Football, rugby, greyhound racing was a popular one years ago. And to be fair, if they're not involved in that game, should that really be effective? But then again, you made a really good point that if a player is friends with another player, it could cause them to disrupt things.
They simply shouldn't be allowed to bet on football at all. That's the rules, isn't it? But
yeah,
I mean, he actually even betted on his own side to lose.
Ivan Toney betted on his own side to lose the game.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is going to be interesting. Well, was that when he was at Brentford or when he was at Peterborough?
Now, when he's been at Brentford. You look at, like, Bruce Grobbelaar years and years ago, back in the early 90s, when I think he first done for, like, match fixing and stuff.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
From a goalkeeper, it's probably a bit easier to match fix than from a striker's perspective, but it's not right, is it? That
no
people, I just think it's appalling, really, to be honest. But then again, I'm not Ivan Toney's biggest fan anyway, so I might
there are some
bias here.
Yeah, I agree completely. And when it comes to the issue of gambling in sports, and especially if you gamble as a sports person, that has to be one particular crime where you are effectively guilty until proven innocent, in my opinion. Because the more details that come out, the more you start to realize that it's one thing to say that it's a gambling addiction, but and I think Mr. B, if you are still in the chat, I've sent you the link on Instagram. Do please hop on, yeah? And he's going to have a lot to say about this. And I think I remember him saying in our group that he's probably been harshly done by. But I also remember saying, when you bet against your own team, it's like going against your family members. You just don't do that. And we've got several American friends in that group who obviously are fans of baseball, and they will know about the Pete Rose controversy, about the Hall of Fame batter who was the sports all-time leader in hits, who also was done for betting on games, including games involving his own team, and was banned for life from the sport. So, gambling has to be rooted out any which way. And to see this happening with an active player is absolutely awful. I do seem to remember the tale of a certain Peter Shilton getting involved in gambling during, I think it might have been during the very, very fag end of his career, or also sometime afterwards when he was dealing with the, sort of the withdrawal of having retired from professional sport or what have you. Maybe he needed a buzz. And I think he credits his now wife with sort of helping him, beat that habit. But it's never something that should be encouraged. And I think it is also fair to say that this will start to trigger the debate on whether or not we should actually have these betting firms being such big players in terms of sponsoring football teams. It's just horrible.
I would just have them completely off football kits altogether, because in a way, like I know the FA and obviously FIFA are trying to get involved with this Ivan Toney thing. I think that the months I think is very, very harsh, to be honest, because we talk about like betting is a very, very serious offence. I can absolutely get that. But the Premier League think that a racism offence is an 8-match ban. How on earth is racism 8 matches and betting's 8 months? Can someone seriously say to me how that is fair? Because for me, racism is a much, much more worse offence. And especially like what's happened to Vinicius Jr. I think that's absolutely horrible. And Craig, I've seen your video on it. I absolutely agree with you. I was literally livid when I was watching that game. How he was sent off as well. Like, he never instigated it. It was like someone had him in a headlock. So I could, it's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous when you put it that way. But Kieran Trippier, when he was at Atletico Madrid, he was banned for 4 months. Daniel Sturridge, when he was in Turkey, banned for 6 months. Ivan Toney gets 8 months. Now, surely we're having a bit of a discussion about consistency here. So, how is Trippier banned for 4 months? Daniel Sturridge 6 months, and now Ivan Toney 8 months. Absolutely ludicrous. And you know what? The FA just make it up as they go. They make it up as they go. And 100% kick racism out of football. Absolutely, 100%. But unfortunately, some of these countries have definitely got a racism problem. Spain being one of the big ones. But the way that people are actually going on about this, like Ivan Toney thing, like he's banned till January. Like that could seriously affect Brentford. David Raya is going to be leaving very, very shortly. Brentford have a fabulous season, but was it not for Ivan Toney's goals, Brentford would be 19th in the table. So it just goes to show how good Ivan Toney has been. Look, I feel for Ivan Toney. I feel for him. There's been loads of people that have had gambling addictions in the past, and this isn't to sort of get Ivan Toney completely banned out of football. Help him, give him help. To be given an indefinite ban from from all football activities. I know he was at the ground. I know he was at the ground yesterday to watch, obviously, Brentford and Manchester City. But from next season, not even allowed in the ground, not even allowed to train with his teammates, has to train on his own. I don't think he's even allowed at any other football stadium. this is a very, very harsh ban that the FA have got. And obviously the FA want to go and say that, oh, yeah, we'll speak to FIFA and make it a worldwide ban. So I think Ivan Toney has been harshly dealt with. I really do. Because how on earth racism is an 8-match, 10-match ban to basically a gambling betting ban being 8 months is absolutely ludicrous, and I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I do see your point entirely. And just before we move on, because we have got Mr. B in the background here, I'm going to bring you on in just a second, mate. But I just want to bring up that Vinicius Junior video that I did, because I was, in fact, we was on a show, we recorded a show that night, and then I sat down and I watched that Real Madrid versus Valencia game, and it was infuriating because Vinicius Junior actually pointed out the person in the crowd and said, "Look, it's that person there." And what did the officials do around the pitch? Absolutely sweet FA. What did the referee do? You know, personally, if I was the Real Madrid team, I would have walked off that pitch. And they would have had every right to do that. Now, and then to send off Vinicius Junior when he was being strangled, I am sorry, but that is an absolute disgrace, an absolute effing disgrace. I'll say effing rather than the other word.
Did you also see as well, Craig, that apparently Valencia appealed the stadium ban and they've had it reduced?
Are you joking?
No, they were banned. They were banned for 5 matches. 5 matches with that stand that was basically banned. And they've managed to appeal it, and they've been given a 75 grand fine along with a reduced ban of 3 matches.
I can't understand why any player wants to go to La Liga. And to be honest, you know, Jefferson Lerma, for example, you know, was rumoured to be going to La Liga. You know, if that has influenced his decision not to go there, and it's just why he's decided potentially to go to Crystal Palace, which is the rumours. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that's not true, and you know, it turns out that he does stay at Bournemouth. I don't blame him. Right, we do have 2 more guests waiting back door. We have got Mr. B. How you doing, Mr. B?
Yeah, cool, mate. Cool. Big up, lads. Great to see you all on here. Manny, I know, of course, and Doug. I know. Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. And I'm just going to bring in another man. It's Mr. Door. How you doing, Mr. Door?
I'm feeling great. Have we got any Leicester fans on here?
No, but there probably is some watching.
Leicester fans, don't stop crying. That's what I'm going to say to them. Stop
Yeah,
crying.
well done, Forest,
Yeah, hey, that's harsh. That's not fair. That's not fair.
Yeah, congrats to Forest, man. Congrats to Forest. Brilliant, man. Well done for staying up. Well done, man.
Thanks. Why is it not fair?
No, but listen, I mean, see, you know how it feels to have been relegated and to have had problems coming up. I think with all due
sorry. No, you don't. Right, as a Forest fan, right, we're not their rivals, right? And all the nonsense that they've been giving us about, oh, we're going to get relegated. We brought so many players in, blah, blah, blah. And now they've got relegated and we're staying up. Why should I give sympathy to him?
Fair enough. My apologies.
Yeah. So let's ones they can cry as much as they want.
Mr. Door, you don't like Leicester, do you? Let's be honest.
No. Look, listen to me. I don't care about Leicester. Right. The thing about Leicester City, right, and I forgot his name. I forgot Leicester fan's name. I didn't care about him. They beat us 4-0. They had like a bus celebration when they did, on that, and and I took the massive L. I took the massive L and thought, yeah, I took it. We beat the 2-0 at City Ground, easy. And then they've been saying things about Leicester fans been covering my channel, I thought, I've had enough. I've had enough of him. Send them down. And now they're down, they're crying over it. So, yeah. It is what it is.
Well, I tell you what, Mr. B, we was just talking about Ivan Toney.
Yeah, I heard that, mate. Yeah.
Matt, I noticed your message just a second ago. You've got to shoot off
Yeah,
for work,
shoot.
haven't you, in the morning?
Yeah.
All right, mate. Well,
See you
I'll
later.
catch up with you very, very soon, no doubt.
Cheers, mate.
All right,
Cheers,
see you
mate.
later,
See you,
mate.
Matt.
See you, mate.
That's
Have a good
man.
one.
God, Mr. B, sorry. Far
No
away,
worries. No worries.
Ivan Toney.
Well, where do I start? Don't know really. Well, it's his own stupid fault for doing all those bets, isn't it? Especially against his own team and what was it towards his family and all that as well. Yeah, it's just mad, mate. But you know, the only thing it screws us up because we're without him for what was it 8 months. So you know we ain't got him till January next year. So it's a real fuck up on his part, and you know I just hope he comes back and he's remorseful and he'll never do the same thing again because you know we can't be without one of our best players for all that long, you know. And we've got to find a replacement now, you know, an ideal replacement. So we're looking at Kyokeres or something at Coventry.
Oh, yeah, Victor Gyökeres.
Yeah, Kyokeres. Yeah,
Yes.
never pronounce that name, but yeah, but he's he's one of the strikers we're after, and I think another one is the guy at Middlesbrough, Chuba Akpom. I believe we're
Yes.
after him. And another one is Armando Broja, the one that was at Chelsea and all that, on loan
Oh,
at
yeah, yeah.
Southampton.
Yeah, I know the one.
So we are after a few, you know. So we are looking around, but you know, if we can actually, I don't think we'll actually replace Tony at all because he was, you know, immense. You know, everything he done was superb. You know, touches and passing. Finishing, you know, I mean, probably our best player there, along with him. I think Mbomo's very underrated as well. He's a class player. And of course, our goalie, Raya, you know, he
Yeah.
could be going for what, 40 million. So he could be off. But, and then, you know, we have got some other good players. You know, Pinnock signed a new deal and he scored, of course, the other day. So scored the winner. You know, we got him from Barnsley in 2019. He's been immense, you know, in that time. And of course, Ben Mee, fantastic, free signing from Burnley, been amazing, you know. So that's what you can do on a free transfer. What you can get, you know.
Thomas Frank's been fantastic, hasn't he? Really,
Yeah.
he stood by Ivan Toney, and he's looked. You know, I think he's backed the player to a certain extent, but
Oh yeah,
do
yeah.
you think he's felt let down, or do you think he was aware of how bad this situation had got?
Bit of both, I suppose. But I mean, the thing is, I mean, there wasn't a lot he could do about it. There's, you know, Brentford couldn't do a lot about that. It's you know, Tony's done it, and it's you know, it's not our fault what he's done, is it? So,
Agree, completely agree.
yeah. But unfortunately, I still think it was a little bit harsh. I would have probably given him community service or something, which is what Thomas Frank actually suggested. Community service and probably like a course or something on gambling and things like that. You know, I thought that would have suited him better and served him better than, you know, 8 months. Okay, a fee as well. Obviously, he's paid is it 50,000? So, you know, it's I would have said that would have been enough with the community, you know, service and stuff. And a course or whatever, I think that would have been enough, to be honest.
I saw, you know, and I saw this tweet that was put out by a gambling addiction company in relation to this, and it was supporting Ivan Toney and saying how he needed help, which obviously
Exactly,
he does.
yeah,
But
it's obvious, yeah.
the replies were very much like, no, and some were calling for Brentford to be docked points, which was ridiculous,
Yeah,
to be
exactly. Yeah.
perfectly honest. But you can kind of see what is probably and it's probably teams at the bottom end. Oh, Mr. Dawes, I think maybe had to shoot off. Hopefully he's he's got to go because of work, not a problem. But a lot of people, were knocking knocking that tweet because they felt that without Ivan Toney, like you said, Doug, Brentford would have been 19th without all those goals.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and I really rate Ivan Toney. He's a player that I would like at Bournemouth, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. He's class, isn't he? Yeah.
He's quality.
But,
He's quality
yeah,
on the
he is,
football pitch,
definitely.
but he needs to be educated. He needs to be managed. He needs to. And the only thing I could possibly suggest is if somebody takes control of
Yeah.
finances to a certain extent of him, if that is needed, because he doesn't want this ruining his career, which it could do if it arises again. Hopefully he'll
Yeah.
learn from this,
Yeah.
but it could ruin his career.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. Unfortunately, I think you'll find a lot of these footballers are all numpties, basically, a lot of them, and they just, they've got more money than sense, and, they don't give a shit what they're doing with it all, and, gambling it away or boozing it away or whatever, And at the end of the day, their careers, fall apart because of that. So, and that's the
Got a
thing with
question
Tony. So, I'm afraid.
from Paul in Australia, a Cherries fan. Does Mr. B reckon he'll come back and be the same player? How long does he have left on his contract?
I'm not sure about the contract wise. I think he could get a new contract. I mean, they've been talking about it, still offering him a new one, despite this, of course. But it's whether he can get some sort of football in between, some sort of training, or somewhere he can actually play somewhere. I mean, because he's obviously banned from any kind of football. So it's whether he can actually be able to train anywhere or do anything with that. Whether he can, he can keep his hand in basically and be able to, come back as good as he was basically. So, well, I hope and pray he can. I hope there can be some sort of thing sorted, some sort of system to help him. But it remains to be seen. But at least he will be fresh. He'll have no football at all. But that's not the
Yeah,
point, is it? So
I'm
footballers
sure.
want to play matches, don't they? Want to play football. It's their career. So
I'm sure he'll keep himself fit, and at the end of the day, Brentford have got a very, very good system in place. It's a system that we
yeah,
aspire to, really, mate. And that's
I think the guy you were talking about is Rasmus Ankerson. He's
Rasmus
our
Ankerson.
head scout. Yeah, analytics and all that. It's slightly like. Have you ever seen the film Moneyball? That film.
I
Tom Cruise, right?
Tom Cruise,
No,
yeah.
no, Brad Pitt and all that in that
Oh yeah,
Moneyball.
Brad Pitt.
Brad
Yeah,
Pitt, yeah.
Is it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking of
For-
The Color of Money. My bad. For some other crap.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah, the colour of Moneyball. Yeah,
You threw me completely off there, Maddie. I was just thinking. Oh, okay,
yeah,
Brad Pitt. There we are.
yeah,
Well, there we are.
yeah,
Let's just quickly go through some of these comments. Tony's rise
yeah,
to glory is unspoken, which is crazy. Rejected by Newcastle as a youngster. Luke
yeah.
is back on. Big up. And James Dunlop, evening,
We up,
lads.
James? No. Well done,
Excellent.
Everton, by the way. Congrats to Everton.
Yep, congrats.
Staying
Wow.
up.
I'll tell you what, they were they were excellent yesterday. To be fair, the whole crowd was behind them.
Oh, yeah, they
I
beat you,
knew
didn't
what was
they?
going to
Yeah,
happen. I knew. In fact, I predicted. I did a relegation show, and how I did it was I got a fan from Connor, who was on earlier on, Leeds
all right. Yeah.
Bertrand, and Leicester Till I Die for Leicester. And
All right. Yeah.
I spoke to each of them and got their feedback, and all of them, of course, none of them were going to bet against their own club. But the
No.
way I saw it was that I thought Leeds were going to beat Spurs. I
So
didn't
did I.
particularly
Yeah.
think that Leicester was going to beat West Ham, but I could see Everton beating us all day long. And it's not because we were on the beach, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was a case that Goodison Park is hostile at the best of times. When they're up against it, they're hostile.
Yeah. Sure
And
is. Yeah.
I looked at their previous relegation battles, and that crowd have got so much to play on that. Manny, did you see it like that? You know, because you're the voice of reason for me. You know, did you see Everton and that crowd being so hostile that it was going to help them across the line
Against who? Bournemouth, perhaps?
against ourselves? Yes.
Yeah. You know, Everton obviously are a club which have a history of winning the league. I believe they had won it in '87, if I'm not wrong, when Howard Kendall was manager, and of course they won the FA Cup in '95, if memory serves me right, or was that '90? Yeah, '95, because of course United had done the double previous season, and for a club like Everton, obviously, who had been in the Premier League ever since its inception, unlike Luton Town, who are now going to experience that in all its glory, Everton had a lot riding on the final day of the season, and so I guess it's a case of the fans doing whatever they had to do to try to make sure that they would stay up. They knew that whether it was Bournemouth or any other team, they knew that they had to do whatever they possibly could to make sure that the other team would be thrown off. And of course, I should mention that it was also. We also have to give credit to Sean Dyche for the way he was able to set the team up. Of course, when he got into the job, we went there and played them in his first game, and he taught us a footballing lesson. Dyche has something of an Indian sign over Mikel Arteta, you see, and we weren't able to break down that system of theirs where they had four.
They beat us as well. Yeah.
Or the ability to stay up, because with strikers they had and of course their best striker being injured, I just didn't think that they would be able to do it. But of course they sort of had to become a rather niggly sort of Daishi team, as it were, and I think the fans pretty much knew that there was no way that they could afford to just be passive, as it were. They had to be aggressive because their survival depended on it, their reputations, as it were, depended on it. And I think the overall feeling is that this isn't the first time, as we all know, that they've been through this before, but to go through this again, I think maybe they just felt a sense of irritation. I think this could probably prompt the fans to demand a lot more change. I think you mentioned at the top of your show that there was going to be a lot of clamour for the current board to go. It was just a case of the fans having to do what they had to do to make sure that their team were fired up and determined to go out and win. And it probably might not be nice to see. I don't think I was able to see the match except for the final few minutes. But, I think they had to do what they had to do. It's as simple as that, really.
Well, I tell you what, let's bring in a man that wasn't very happy yesterday because the Cherries didn't do what they had to do. And he's a local man as well, a good friend. Hello, Chris. You all right, mate?
What's this friendship, mate?
Oh.
I told you, mate. I know where you live, Camford Cliffs. I'm down there with me here. With me, how many windows are going to get smashed? There'll be poo through your letterbox.
Oh dear. Chris, let's be honest. You put. Let's be honest. You put in a really good show yesterday. I've seen the highlights against West Ham, and it felt like the Leicester of old. It felt like the King Power Stadium of old. It just felt too bloody late.
No, we didn't get relegated yesterday. Yesterday did not define our season. There's a lot of things, a lot of reasons why we went down. Like I said, it wasn't down to that 38th game; it was down to the previous 37. It was down.
Brendan Rodgers, you kept hold of him too long, didn't you? At
Sorry?
the end, really?
Yeah, Rodgers. I mean, he should have gone the end of last season, but we had a good finish to the season, so he was sort of kept. He should have gone before the World Cup. He should have gone after the World Cup. He should have gone every time I went to the toilet. I mean, the guy was a fan end. He shouldn't. And I hope he goes to Spurs just because I don't like Spurs, and he'd fuck their club up as well. And Doug knows what Rodgers can do to a club. There's what pees me off, and I know James is in the chat and he knows it's not personal to Everton fans, but what pees me off is that we could not buy any players, and okay, it's our own fault because we didn't sell Tielemans when we should have, which is our normal. We sell one big player a season. We kept hold of him, trying to stay up, with the big boys in the top six. He should have been sold, and he wasn't. But we tried to stay within the FFP rules. We'd had that warning off Europe and saying, that if you could qualify for Europe again, the chances are you could get fined if you're not careful. So we try and stay within FFP rules, and we can't buy players until we sell the plonker that's Fofana, and we get relegated. And yet Everton, no points deduction. And can I just say to the plonker that was on Talk Sport, I don't know, he was a presenter, I'm not sure who he was, some ex-player, that says that the Premiership the Premier League needs Liverpool, Everton, derbies. Does it fuck?
Oh no! I completely. Do you know what? This really pisses me off.
Did
This
you
does.
hear it as well?
Honestly, it really does piss me off because at the end of the day, no team in this league is too big to be relegated, and that includes. And Manny, you'll agree with this. I know because you're sensible. If Arsenal were one of the three worst teams in the league, you get relegated. Doug, you probably agree with Liverpool. With ourselves, if he was one of the worst three teams in the league, deserve to be relegated.
I have to say, Craig, I absolutely hate that saying. You're not too good to go down. What a load of bollocks! Absolute bollocks. If you're not,
you can be too bad to stay up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But but Everton and Man City, as Marcus says, they should have had points deducted. What's taken the Premier League so long to decide whether they're going to fine them or deduct points? They haven't got the balls to do it. Italy, Juventus, mid-season, we're going to deduct your points. Fucking Premier League run by old idiots that couldn't, get excited if the wife walked in naked. I mean, they just have not got the balls to make decisions. Maybe they were hoping that Everton would go down and they could pass it over onto the EFL. I don't know.
See, this is the argument, though. I was speaking. Me and Matt went to the Chris Billam-Smith boxing fight on Saturday night, just before this game, and we were speaking about this. And the view is, if Everton was relegated yesterday to the EFL, then they probably wouldn't be deducted anything because it was on the Premier League's watch. Now, what happens now because it's on the Premier League's watch? It's likewise, and I don't want to put my own club in it. There was a bit of a review when we were promoted back in 2015 because we spent only a small amount more than what was seen as manageable. Because we were promoted to the Premier League, that was all written off. It was all done. Fine. Paid. Sorted. Job done. I see. That's what I'm comparing it to. Ours wasn't as bad as what the Everton situation is. The Everton situation is awful compared. The Man City situation is awful compared to what we was. But we had to pay that big fine. So what is going to happen now? Because, it's unfair on other teams around, like Leicester, like Leeds. Southampton, let's be honest, dead bottom, it wouldn't have really mattered to them. But the other, yourselves and Leeds, it probably would have done.
But if they make that decision now and say, okay, we've come to our decision, next season you get 10 points deducted or whatever, well, that's next season. It should be done. All right, maybe I'm a bit biased because obviously this season it involves us. And I'm not saying that we're innocent. We've been fined by the FFP, and it was the EFL one, funnily enough. I think when we were in the Championship, we'd gone over budget or whatever, and we paid the fine and we took the punishment. Because they said to us, look, you can either pay the fine or appeal and maybe get a points deduction. We paid the fine. But I can't believe that they get away with it, Man City get away with it. Why can't there just be, there should be one set of rules. How long does it take somebody to do an inquiry on this? You look at it, you go, fucking hell, you've overspent your money, there's 112 charges against you, whatever. This is your punishment. And don't fine
Try
them.
telling that to Chelsea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But and again, what you fine Man City, you fine Everton, who've got a rich owner. It's pocket money to them. They'll only, they need to have the points deducted to, and I don't. That's the one thing I expect. I don't mind going down. Okay, let me just say this: we got relegated because we were shit this season. We were the third worst team in the Premier League over 38 games. We deserved to go down, and we got what we were coming to. And you can argue the reasons. And I've just come off my own show when we've been reviewing what's gone wrong this season, and there's a load of reasons. It's not just one. I accept that, but what I can't accept is teams breaking rules and not being fined, especially as one of the reasons that we went down was us trying to stick by the rules.
I completely agree with you, sir, and I do seem to remember early in the in the 90s, and I think you might remember this too, actually. When Spurs were under the stewardship of Lord Alan Sugar, I believe they were actually given a 12-point deduction at the time for the crime of making irregular payments to their players. And on appeal, it was reduced to 6 points, but it still ended up costing them a European spot the following season because of that deduction. And that was, of course, the time when Jurgen Klinsmann came to the club. So if there is an ability to make such swift and harsh decisions then for those clubs, why not now? And the answer is simple. I think if clubs aren't too big to go down, they've certainly now become too big to be, punished under the letter of the law. And that's another problem when you have a lot of these overseas billionaires coming in, because obviously, they're not really eager to consider themselves subject to, the laws of the of the Football Association. And there's always going to be this this pressure now to sort of keep certain clubs happy. So, as an Arsenal fan, of course, there have been some fans who were quite gormless enough, for want of a better word, to clamour for Manchester City to get a points deduction because it meant that we'd have a better chance of winning the league. I say to those fans, suck it up. We were awful during the closing stages of the season. We bottled an 8-point lead to lose that league itself by around about 5 points or so, a huge swing. The only reason why it wasn't more is because City were absolutely abysmal in their last 2 games, having sealed the championship, before. We handed it to them on the platter. But again, in the 90s, people came down heavily on corruption in football. Teams suffered. Look what happened to Marseille. They got stripped of their Champions League status, and they were demoted from the top division then. Why can't we go back to that? Simple. Because money corrupts, and loads of money corrupts loads.
Well, you're
question. Sorry, on that, it's a very good point. I agree with it totally. Do you guys think that if it was Leicester or Leeds that had done what Everton would have done, that we would have been deducted points this season?
Yes. I think the fact that they haven't done anything to Everton, I think is two reasons. One, obviously Everton are, considered to be a very, 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 very big club. But the second thing is Everton have never been relegated from the Premier League. So I think they still want that sort of story for them to, be in there. But you look at look, Newcastle, prime example. Obviously, Marco's in the chat, and obviously, hello, Marco. Hope you're doing well. Newcastle have been fabulous this season. They have been absolutely fabulous. Now, we can all look at obviously what Chelsea are doing, spending money willy-nilly. Todd Bowley hasn't got a clue. He hasn't got a clue to be a football owner. And looking at what Newcastle are doing, yes, they're spending money, but they're spending it wisely. They're not just going out and saying, I'll have you, Neymar, Messi, Lewandowski. Like, they haven't done that. They've basically gone and basically said, right, we'll get Botman, we'll get Pope. And to be fair, these signings have worked. Isaac, 62 million. Fantastic signing as well. Look at Chelsea. 8 or 9 year contracts. Mudryk, 88 million. The Ukrainian H from Steps. Like, he's been shocking. Kukurea, 65 million quid. Like, Kukurea has been an absolute disastrous signing. An absolute disastrous signing. Enzo Fernandez, 108.5 million. Chelsea has spent £650 million in the last 12 months that Todd Bowley's been there.
And they struggle to beat us.
Exactly. And the worrying thing is as well, Chelsea are going to have to sell, I think, I read this, I think it's about 250 million worth of players, because they're giving these players way too many contracts. Like, 8 or 9 year contracts is embarrassing. And it is sort of doing that loophole where I think because they're trying to follow financial fair play, get rid of financial fair play. Honestly, financial fair play is an absolute myth as far as I'm concerned. It is an absolute myth. Chelsea is spending money willy-nilly, and they're giving these big contracts to these players to actually get to that financial fair play loophole. What a load of rubbish. Get Chelsea done for financial fair play. I don't care. 650 million in 12 months is absolutely ludicrous.
They don't give a monkeys, do they? They do not care less what they're spending, Chelsea. This is the thing that is the problem with football. Let's be fair. The Everton situation, you could say, right, okay, that's the ground. They've still spent money on shit, put nicely. They have spent money on rubbish. But Chelsea just have got no control. They're just going ballistic.
Mm-hmm.
And let's look at, and just going back to your earlier point where somebody, of course, people have been saying about Luton, for example. Now, that is a fairy tale. Luton being promoted to the Premier League is brilliant, for their football club. Don't get me wrong. They're probably going to really struggle. They're probably going to be written off left, right and centre like we were. However, it's a fairy tale. But how the hell do Luton compete when you've got Chelsea spending that amount of money, Everton over here spending that amount of money? You've got, if they were spending it wisely, it's stupid. Whereas Newcastle, and of course Marco is a Newcastle fan. He is, anyhow, has spent sensibly at that football club. They've got lots of money.
Very sensibly.
But they've done it in the right way. Everybody goes, oh, Saudi owners, they shouldn't be allowed. Hold on a minute. What about Everton? What about Chelsea? What about, where is the punishment coming from? And just to answer your question, I personally don't think if it was Leicester Maybe Leeds, they might have been a bit, but Leicester, they would have taken the points off you. They would have taken the points off you because not seen as one of the founding members of the Premier League, not seen as, a big club, although you've done what a lot of these big clubs haven't done, which is won that thing that is sat right behind you, Chris. And that's got to be one of the proudest moments of any Leicester fan because you upset the entire league. And do you
And they
know
didn't
what?
like it, did they? They made sure it was never going to happen
Oh,
again.
yeah, they didn't like it at all. Do you know what? I'll say this now. I absolutely fucking loved that when Leicester won that league. I
I
was
did as well.
actually
I did as well.
pleased to win it. The reason being, it's not anything against Arsenal or Tottenham, but it was more the case of this is how you can dream. I'm a Bournemouth fan, and I could never imagine this, and there's Leicester living it for me and making me think, hold on a minute, this could one day happen.
Yeah.
Somehow, God, if it happened to Bournemouth, I think, well, this whole place would go absolutely ballistic. I don't think you'd be able to move for days,
I
actually.
mean, I live in Bournemouth or just outside Bournemouth, and that season I was walking around Bournemouth, and I'd have a coat on. It's got just a little Leicester badge. It wasn't sort of all plastered Leicester. It had a little badge, and I heard one guy just knew me as Mr. Leicester. I mean, the Bournemouth public were absolutely. And you know what it's like in Bournemouth. Not everybody's a Bournemouth fan because people move to Bournemouth and they bring their football allegiance with them.
Yeah.
I went into the bank and went up to the woman behind the counter doing whatever I was doing, and she went, "Oh, Leicester City, Jamie Vardy, we had Mahrez." I went, "Yeah." She said, "Oh, great season." I said, "Brilliant." I said, "Who do you support?" She said, "Oh, I don't like football," but she knew, and we gave. It was the story, and look, like I say, we've gone down. We've got to take that on board, and we've got to. I think we'll be back, not necessarily straight away, but look at the ride we've had. The Great Escape, the Premier League, quarterfinals. I was hugging my son, crying, listening to the Champions League music when Leicester City were in the quarter final of the Champions League. And no disrespect, Manny, that was the year that Arsene Wenger said we would embarrass English football. But we got through to the quarter final. We had two top five finishes, the FA Cup, the Community Shield, a quarter final of a European competition. It has been the best 9 years. And we've won things in the past, but they're the best 9 years of my footballing life. And I got to do that, and I got to see that with my son. And that, I don't care if we never. Obviously, I want to come back again, but I've had that. What have Spurs won in the last 9 seasons?
Very true. What have Everton won in the last
Well,
9 seasons?
exactly.
What have there's a lot of big sides. These sides which are untouchable. Leeds. I know Leeds have gone down, but to be honest, I think they are looked upon probably more. I'm not saying this as a bad thing, Chris, but they're looked at as more favourably than Leicester because of the size of their fan base and how they were one of the founding members and so on and so forth.
We're seen as the upstart. We're seen as the
But that's what
ones that
football
sort of
needs.
pushed our way onto that top table, and we shouldn't have been there. Our table was over there near the entrance to the toilet. But that is what football is about. I love the fact. All right, we've gone down. Leeds have gone down, but Luton Town have come up.
Yeah.
Sorry, Coventry, but no, I mean Luton Town. And believe you me, if Coventry City had come up, Forest stayed up, and we went down, I'd have topped myself today. But congratulations to Luton Town, and how many big teams? Sheffield Wednesday, what a huge team they are, and they've just come back up again from League One. It's what you dream about. Carlisle just won the playoffs today. Football should be about that, but it isn't, unfortunately, anymore, and it's a shame. But if nothing else, I think we hopefully have given hope to other clubs that the dream can be done. Maybe it's a bit more difficult now, But Alan Shearer made the point on Match of the Day yesterday. There's a lot of clubs in that league that need to look at what has happened to us. And the word that I have taken out of this weekend is complacency.
Yeah, 100%.
We sleepwalked into that relegation zone. It was happening, and Top has to take a certain amount of blame. Susan Whelan, the chief executive, the director of football, John Rudkin, the football, whatever job he does, Andrew Neville. What were they doing while Rome was burning? And the players, the crocodile tears on the last day. You didn't give a fucking toss when you were losing to Fulham or when you were losing to Southampton twice, bottom team, and we lost to them twice. Where were your tears and your effort then? Don't
Yeah.
turn up the last two games and pretend that you love the club.
Do you know what
You shouldn't have
I
had me
do
on,
feel
you
your
see. You
pain on
shouldn't have
that.
had me on.
No, mate. No, honestly, I do feel your pain on that. But you have lived through something that I could only dream that could happen to this football club. This, you've been down to Dean Court and you've seen how pokey it is, and
Craig,
how. Yeah,
can I ask you something? See how Luton Town are being sort of ordered to sort of pay on their stadium. When you guys came up, were you ordered to pay for to upgrade your stadium or not?
yes. There were significant upgrades that were made during that time. I don't think as many as Luton, because it was a little bit of a different era. Different era. It was only 2015, but it wasn't as robust. But things have progressed since then, and there was significant upgrades to Dean Court. It's upgrades which have been stayed in place, which is good. It's really
Yeah.
positive. I think when we got to the championship, we did start to make progress then as well. Of course, Dean Court, believe it or not, that fourth stand, that Ted McDougall stand, is actually a temporary stand. It's actually a three-sided stadium still.
Scaffolding, isn't it? I remember being
It
sat in
certainly
that.
is. Yeah, it certainly is. It
I
is
was,
like a walkway.
I was
That,
sat in that stand, and I'm thinking for Bournemouth, please don't score because this is going to collapse.
yeah, it is a temporary stand. We're going to have to move to a new stadium, and that, I think, Bill Foley has said left, right, and centre. And Jim Favola said it the other day. He had a press conference that was put on AFCB TV, and if anybody's not seen it, do take a watch, even if you're not a Bournemouth fan. And he mentions new stadium several times. The thing is we've got such a big, as you know, Chris, such a big space behind Dean Court, which is the car park. Now, the training ground is just behind that Ted McDougall temporary stand. It's quite close to it, to be honest.
Oh, you
It's
could
within.
spit in it. You could spit in it.
Yes, you could do it. It is literally there.
Yeah.
What that means, though, is, and the plan is to knock that down, so it won't be needed effectively once the training ground is being finished off at Camford Magna, so outside of Poole. Knock that down and then start building from there. I don't know how they're going to do it. If they're going to do it, towards the athletics track, point towards the athletic track. So one stand, the smaller stand where the goalpost will be, at the back of where the training is, or if it's going to come across the car park. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I would say it's probably going to go over the car park, and the reason being is so it can be expandable if needed. But it's something that we need to do. It's something we need to
Do you
do,
not
and
need to move totally though, because you can only expand so much in the space you've got. And I as you know, I moved down to
oh yeah,
Bournemouth 15 years ago, and you were arguing with the council over the car park.
see, the thing is, Chris, it's a weird situation here because the ground is actually owned by Structure Dean. We sold it to them back in 2004, 2005 ish. When the money, when the club was skint, we always seem to be fucking skint in the past. you know, so we were skint back then. So we've sold the ground. It was Peter Phillips that sold the ground to Structure Dean. Structure Dean gave an amount of money. I think it was only really about 4 or 5 million. Matt's got the exact figures of this. So that money was paid to the club, kept the club running. Of course, nearly went into administration again and everything, and minus 17, and all sorts happened after that. So we still rent that ground. We did ask Structure Dean, and this is what a rumour, from my understanding, from people I've spoken to, we did ask Structure Dean to buy that ground back, and they wanted 10 times as much at that point. Now the thing is that stadium and the ground it's based upon, the council can't touch. It's not council property because it's actually owned by, of course, the Cooper Dean family have long gone. The person who actually donated the grounds to the club passed away years and years and years ago. But that was always written into one of these old laws. So that can only be used for sporting purposes. That ground.
Yeah.
What I can only imagine now is Structure Dean are going to want to sell that ground. We build over part of that car park. You know, the council still have a car park. And then once that ground has been built, buy the old ground of Structure Dean and give it back to the council. So the effectively the rights of that piece of land just move so far. That's what I can imagine. So the rights of that piece of land just pass over to where the new stadium is built. And that's, of course, the ground's levelled, becomes car parking, becomes public space, becomes whatever the bloody council want to build on it, probably houses and flats and, you know, luxury apartments, or probably put about 15 barbecues in a circle around there. You know, they could do anything. You know what BCP council's like.
Oh, do not start me.
Oh
Do
yes,
not
we
start
should.
me.
we could be on that for hours, couldn't we?
Oh, we could.
But yeah, that
All you
is
need to do, mate. All you need to do is buy a caravan, tow it there, and leave it, and you'll get all the rights that you need. Allegedly.
That's a subject for another day, isn't it? That's a subject for
Sorry.
another day.
You know
We
it's
do.
true, though.
Yeah, I do. We have got other people coming on as well. Marco 4863. Bournemouth is a beautiful place, but Luton is a poop hole. Let's be honest. Do you know what? I haven't been to Luton for years. I don't know if I'm missing much. Really, am I missing much?
I've not been. It's got a good airport, allegedly.
Yeah, the route out's good. Hey guys, it's like somebody turned around to me once and said about the best road in Reading was the M4 that goes through it. NS Sports TV, hi.
Oh my god,
big
that's
up.
funny.
I've got a question, if I can, for Manny.
Go on, Chris. Far away.
We know that players are going to leave. I mean, we've got 7 players out of contract. Again, you know, the argument is, well, how the hell do we get into that position, you know, where they weren't tied down? Tielemans, you're welcome to him, to be quite honest with you. He's shown no commitment to the club. He doesn't want to sign a contract so that we get any money. We're just going to have to write 40 million off for him. But you obviously wanted him a few years. Maddison, you've wanted him as well. Are there players, having gone down, that you would still be interested in?
I think from Leicester, if you ask that question, sir, I remember actually speaking to a couple of Liverpool fans about Tielemans, and they pretty much made it clear that they wouldn't touch him with a barge pole. Too lazy, apparently. So not good enough for a Liverpool team.
I wouldn't touch Tielemans.
Yeah.
I wouldn't touch Tielemans. I think he's I think as well that there's a number of players in that Leicester side who have just gone for the pay packet. They've no ounce of fighting for the badge. I don't think they had enough players fighting for the badge this season, and unfortunately, that is the case with Leicester City this season. Is that some of those players there have obviously just gone for the pay packet, but I think the one big thing that has cost Leicester this season is not getting a number one goalkeeper. Because I don't know about you, Chris, but Danny Ward's never struck me as a number one. Daniel Iverson, to be fair, I think has done pretty well. Your other one that you've got is obviously Alex Smithies, and again, he's not really sort of first team proven. Obviously, Cardiff City as well, but I just think losing Kasper Schmeichel for $1 million is really poor.
We've just been talking about this, funny enough, on my channel. And look, Smithies was always going to be a Jupokovic. He was there in case of emergencies. You've got to have three goalkeepers, because if you get one that's injured, you look at, you need a third one to come on the bench. Kasper Schmeichel, look, we miss Kasper Schmeichel's leadership. We miss Kasper Schmeichel's voice in the dressing room. We do not miss Kasper Schmeichel as a goalkeeper. Yes, you can look at everything he has done, amazing, but that's like saying let's dig up Frank Worthington and put him on the pitch. He was good years ago. Last season he was awful. I've seen Dracula come out for crosses quicker than he did. It was just absolutely awful. So yeah, I don't know why he left. I think there was more went on. Danny Ward came in. Let's be honest with you. This is the guy that we'd had for 3 odd years, and had probably he played one Premier League football game. So you're asking for the guy to stand up, and then when you look at who we had in front of him, you had Fofana, who, excuse my French, is complete and utter toss wanker. That he couldn't give a shit, and he just wanted out. He went on strike, so he's got him in front of him. He's got Daniel Amati being played in front of him on the left, and he's right, and he's right-footed, and it wasn't. We could have had Gordon Banks, Peter Shilton, and Kasper Schmeichel all in goal at the same time at the start of the season. We'd have still shipped 6 to Spurs and 5 to Brighton, 4 to Arsenal. It was not just Danny Ward, but then it got to a point where his confidence was that low that something had to be done. Iverson came in, and okay, he thankfully had a couple of good games, and if it had some bad games, God knows what we'd have done. But we could not afford to buy another goalkeeper that would have been any good, because because of FFP. And that was the problem.
Absolutely.
We could only start spending money once we'd got rid of the tosspot wanker that's called Fofana. And how's that going, Chelsea, by the way? Giving him a 9-year contract, and apparently he's been shit for you. Comes out.
Just a quick one. Marco is running quite low on battery. I will come to your question in a minute, NAS Sports, but who thinks that I'm a boxer called Billy Joe Saunders? I tell you what, that's a good one, to be honest. Got the muscle.
Paddy
Certainly
Kirk,
a lot better.
Paddy Kirk,
Certainly yeah. You had to mention Paddy Kirk. I mean, I might not be the biggest fan of British soap operas necessarily, but I think Paddy Kirk's doesn't really do Craig justice. But anyway, I'll get back to your question, by the way, Chris Van Mesa. I'd have Maddison definitely, because at least throughout the season he was able to put in quite a bit of effort, and certainly when we played you lot twice, I thought he showed a decent bit of. He had some endeavour, and I thought there was a lot about him. I think one player who I was really impressed with, and who sadly got injured far too often, and I'm surprised that he hasn't been mentioned at all, is certain James Justin. There was talk. I mean, of course, he was picked by England as well, and I thought that when he was playing on the left, when he came to the Emirates Stadium, he literally ripped Ben White a new one that day. And it was just unfortunate, I think, that some other poor defensive mistakes elsewhere, including a Danny Ward error, it meant that you lost 4-2. I'd take Maddison from Leicester, and from other relegated teams, I believe some clubs have been in for Jack Harrison. If Wilfred Gnonto might be in limbo, I certainly wouldn't mind having him. Very small, but very, very quick, very dynamic. From Southampton, if I want to shore up the midfield, I'd take Lavia. And, going back to Kasper Schmeichel, I mean, I hear what you say when you say that that the previous season before he left, he wasn't at his best. But then surely, I mean, when you take... there's a part of me that does think that at least for his leadership alone, and at least for the presence that he has and the respect that he commands, you might have had to keep him, because with him gone, you obviously had Johnny Evans as captain, and he wasn't quite able to have that same magnetic pull, that level of that motivating ability that the likes of Casper or even Wes Morgan had. So again, there were quite a few problems in that respect. And I hear what you say about financial fair play, but then surely you also might need to consider that injuries weren't really your best friends.
No, okay. Well, the injuries were down to the fact that we had Harold Shipman at the training stadium, because we had more injuries from the training stadium than we did from the pitch. But that was down to Bellend Rogers, because he just did not know how to train people without getting them injured. Fofana, as much as I hated him, one of the first things he said was, "My God, I've never seen such intense training." And the fact that nobody above him, right up to Susan Whelan, had a thought, well, we better look into this. Why were all these players injured?
Chris, I didn't realise you were training intense.
I tell you what, this is quite a good point to bring in. He's been very, very patient backstage. Manny, a Spurs fan, is coming on.
Oh,
hello. Hello, Josh. You all right?
If he's coming in, I'm going to have to go, because I've got things just to end up and finish my show off from earlier. Thanks for having me on. Congrats.
That's all right. No problem at all, Chris. Just quickly, before you go, this question from NS Sports TV. When is the earliest you realistically see Leicester back in the top flight?
I don't know. I mean, you look
next season.
You can't. You don't know. I mean, if you said to Dan 12 months ago, would you be coming straight back up in a season? He had no idea. We could do a Burnley, get rid of a load of players, bring on virtually a whole new squad, get a decent manager, and turn it round. We could have just as easily have two or three seasons down there. I don't think we'll come straight back up, but there we go. And just for Manny, now he's back. Before I go, the reason I'm actually going is because I'm going to go and pick James Maddison up and drive him to the club for you. The guy's a show pony. He plays when he turns up against the likes of Spurs, Arsenal, Man City. He can't be asked when we play another, non-big six teams, because the camera's not on him. And if you look, if he gets tackled in a game when you need to win, he goes up laughing and smiling and combing his hair. If that's the sort of player you want at Arsenal, mate, as I say, I'll drive him there for you. You're welcome to him. Guys,
how much would you take from him?
How about you throw in Harvey Barnes, who will pay you extra then?
Well, I'll pay you to take James Maddison at the moment. That's how little I think of him. No, I'm sorry. If you haven't got the loyalty to show to the club, then fuck off. And he hasn't got the loyalty to show to the club.
Said.
Because
said.
All he wants to do, like I say, is smile. Oh, why was he smiling so much to the camera? Then you realise Gareth Southgate's in the crowd. Why instead of smiling for the camera, hold on to pass the fucking ball to a player and don't do anything yourself? Why grab the ball to take a penalty and grab all the headlines that, I was the one that got the winning goal against Everton, when you take a fucking penalty kick like Jan Kermorgant? I'm sorry, the guy...
Oh, Jan Kermorgant, he's good penalty.
Do not you start me, young Craig. the guy, yes, he's had his moments. Did he win us the FA Cup? No, because he wasn't even on the pitch for 2/3 of the game. You're welcome to him, mate. You are welcome to him. The sooner players like that get out of our club and we can get players in that want to play for the club rather than play for the money, then you will see us back. But I don't know how long that will be. Guys, all the best to you. Good luck if you're in Europe next season, where all you guys are, apart from Craig. But well done at staying up, mate. And I'll maybe see you in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, I
Thank
shall
you,
see
sir.
you
Have a good
very,
night.
very soon, Chris. And keep in contact
I'll
because
see you tomorrow because I'm coming to smash your fucking windows, mate.
Oh,
Chris, we need that joke off soon.
We will do. I might have a gap coming up. I'll let you know, mate. I've never been this fucking busy. I've had Capital, I've had Smooth, I've had Talk TV, the Times Radio messaging me this morning. Bloody hell.
Yeah. You
And then
got
I'm going to this
Pornhub calling
podcast that got
next.
relegated 3 seasons ago.
Don't you start, Craig.
What was that?
You'll have to watch it back, Chris. No, I said you'll have Pornhub next.
Right, somebody's just been on the channel. We're talking about new managers and suggested Scott Parker. Got kicked off straight away. Enjoy the rest of the show, guys.
I'll
Speak
see
to
you
soon.
later,
Cheers.
Chris. See you,
Take care.
mate.
Thank you,
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And thank you for being so patient, Josh. How are you doing, mate?
All good, all good, all good. Calm here. Took out all my grief already, so coming onto the show a little bit calmer.
Fair enough. And yeah, thank you for joining us. So, Spurs. Where do we start with this season? Started off like very promising, and then it just completely collapsed, didn't it?
It's classic Tottenham. Let's be honest. It's classic Tottenham. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about a club where I'm looking at it now, and many of us, I'm not ashamed to say, because what I say I think is true. And I said we won the transfer window, and let's be honest, I honestly did think that we won the transfer window. And you'd be lying to yourself if you didn't think Tottenham won the transfer window back then, because the amount of players, the quality that they brought in, they should be in Arsenal's place. And Arsenal at that point should be at Tottenham's place. That's the way it should be, according to transfer window, according to us Tottenham fans. So when I just did a stream and I had a look at the Tottenham players, and I'm like, we signed 8 players, and 5, 6 of them were awful this season. So how do we improve? How does Spurs improve? Spurs can't improve in terms of tactically, because tactically to improve they need to get the players in, and if the players aren't improving, then tactically they can't improve. Then something's not right. I think in general, Tottenham Hotspur should have taken that next step to try win a trophy ages ago. But because they didn't take the step, because there's been a lot of problems along the way, the likes of Daniel Levy not putting enough money in for Pochettino to improve the squad, has led us to this exact situation that we are right now.
I just, of course, we beat you at White Hart Lane, as I still call it. Back, was it start of April? I'm trying to think now.
It was April the 15th. Yeah.
April the 15th. Yeah, and we was in control of that game. And to be honest, Spurs, being the size of team that they are, shouldn't have allowed us that. Yeah, we nearly drew, but I thought we were much the better side. Danjuma was always going to score against us. Let's be fair, that was written in the stars.
Obviously.
But it's been terrible before and after that result as well, and it's yesterday's result, the 4-1 win against Leeds. You can't look into that and say, okay, yeah, that's Spurs back to their best, because playing an already relegated poor Leeds side, I just don't understand why it's gone wrong. I don't understand what Daniel Levy's been doing, because you're a much bigger side and should be fighting. Well, you have been fighting to get in the European places, but you just not been there at all, really.
This season,
just been
you got to remember,
sliding.
though, it's true, but you got to remember this season. Okay, I'm gonna have a little bit of what's the word? like something contradiction with some Arsenal fans out there. A lot of people say, Tottenham had a bad season. I 100% agree with you lot. Terrible season, missing out on Europe football. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves, okay? Because you got to remember, if Liverpool were on their game this season, they would be switching Arsenal. Okay, if Chelsea were on their game, they would be switching Arsenal. So by that maths, Arsenal would finish 4th. Then let's not forget about Newcastle had an unbelievable season. But would they have gotten the credit that they deserved if Liverpool and Chelsea were on fire? Putting that out there. Now, you can look at Tottenham Hotspur and say, and I'm going to put this out there again, if Tottenham Hotspur were on their game, would they be 4th? I think they would. But then you look at the most pinnacle point of this whole conversation, and it's due to the chairman of Tottenham Hotspur. The fact that he doesn't care about the club enough. Why? Simple reason why. It's the fact that kills the Tottenham Hotspur mentality that just doesn't make sense. You haven't won a trophy in 10 years, 11 years. You haven't won a trophy in 11 years, yeah? Then you go to a League Cup final. This is when it all started to kill the mentality. And then you're like, right now, just putting this out there, there was one manager you had to have and you would want to have in a cup final, any cup final, you would pick Jose. Personally, I would pick Jose ahead of every single manager out there, ahead of Zinedine Zidane, ahead of Ancelotti, ahead of Klopp, ahead of Pep, ahead of everyone. I would choose Jose Mourinho. Why? Because he's got 100% record in every single final he was at, I'm pretty sure. Now, League Cup final, you sacked Jose Mourinho beforehand and replaced him with an interim manager, Ryan Mason, the most experienced manager out there. You substitute him with basically the most unexperienced manager. That's where Daniel Levy comes into play, kills the mentality there. Then shifts down to Harry Kane. Harry Kane now is supposed to take this group and lead them, but with his mentality saying, "Oh wait, God damn it, he's not backed us at all. Daniel Levy's not backed us. Jose Mourinho is not on our team. Jose Mourinho is not with us anymore. It's Ryan Mason. Something's got to change here." But by the way, I've got Spurs Live. That's my OG channel. I'm just here on the second channel, just here to talk. But so that's where it kills the mentality. Now, you see the likes of Arsenal. They didn't lose the league because they played bad. Because they didn't lose the league because City were better. They didn't, because if you look at the league table, I'm pretty sure it's like 200 something days they were ahead on the first spot. It was due to the mentality. The mentality that Arsenal had was not there. It was not there. The mentality was not there. To finish off the season, the last 10 games are the most important games of every single season. They weren't there. Arsenal weren't there. So they bottled the league. They absolutely bottled the league. Okay. Now, look, Harry Kane with all being world class can't even win a trophy. That's shocking. Look, let's be honest. It's like saying water's wet. Honestly, it's already dead. It's a dead thing already. Let's be honest. Yeah, come on, create something new. It's already finished. My mate sent me a message. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know about this Barcelona player, Yamin Yamal, something like that. He's won a trophy before Harry Kane. Stupid things like that. But let's be honest. Yeah, is it Harry Kane's fault that he's not winning trophies? I'll put this out there to you. Is it Harry Kane's fault he's not winning trophies?
No, I don't think so, because I think, if it just seems to be the chemistry at Spurs. It seems to be how everything is linking together. I just don't understand why. I think Daniel Levy is a big part of the problem, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw this out as the last question, because we've been going we have been going 3 hours and 10 minutes. But what I'll do is I'll throw this out to Manny and Doug as the last questions. What do you think Spurs need to do to actually win something? Because again, a massive club like you've said, Josh, who should be getting better? Who should be winning trophies? What do they need to do?
I think if any club was serious about buying Tottenham and trying to save them from this plight, they're going to have to make an offer that Daniel Levy can't refuse, because for Daniel Levy reads Stan Kroenke. That fellow has treated our club like nothing more than his own personal hedge fund for the past, ever since he's been at the club, really. And he's shown no real signs of wanting to be serious about making the investments needed to take us to the next level. But he has also made it clear that he doesn't want to sell the club. I think the fans are going to have to do a lot more to demand change. But this segues back into that wonderful interview you did with Eugene from Spurs Asia TV. And once again, I have to say, I am so glad that the two of you got together to do that. I really, really enjoyed that. And he made it crystal clear that among the people who at the club who wanted to see Levy out, you could see that there's a lot of disunity in the fan base, because there are some people who probably disagree with the way things are being done. There are some people who agree with it. And maybe that there's some more things to be discussed in the way. I see Doug has had to leave, I'm afraid.
Yes, he's had to shoot off.
So I'll probably have to get the last word on this, maybe. But, the fans are going to really have to start uniting and saying enough is enough. We need to demand better, and probably just vote with their feet. Just stop going
so why
to
don't they?
games.
Why don't
we? I mean, that's not a question for me to answer, mate. And the question should very well be for me to answer as an Arsenal fan. Why don't we start voting with our feet next season if things start to go south under Arteta? And they will go south. And I'll tell you why. Because our fans are willing to accept a monumental bottle job, which is what it was, and still paint this season as a truly successful season where we supposedly went toe-to-toe with City. No, we did not go toe-to-toe with them. We were slapped by them 7-2 on aggregate, while a team like Brentford did the double over them. And it's okay. If the fans aren't willing to unite and willing to accept that the emperor has no clothes, there's still going to be some people who will allow this whole rubbish to continue. So Levy is going to have to be forced out one way or another, and it will effectively mean that someone will have to come in basically with an offer, and the fans are going to have to also, really unite behind the common cause. Levy out, Enoch out, whatever it may be. For us, it's Kroenke out, and just take your whole entourage with you, as it were. So I think it's going to have to come from the fans, because when you have owners who know that they're sitting on a gold mine like Levy and Kroenke, they're not going to want to, leave their cash cow alone. And I'm sure this segues into Doug, because I know that there's a lot of controversy about John Henry and KSE. But at least as long as Liverpool were being successful, I think the clamour was probably not as loud as it is on our side.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well. I've kind of just getting bored of the whole FSG thing. I've got to be honest. But I think to make Tottenham a very, very good side, maybe they have to rebuild without Harry Kane. Maybe they may have to do that.
Impossible. It's impossible. It's physically impossible, though. It's literally impossible. Sorry, go on, yeah.
No, I just got a feeling that when I look at Spurs, I think you may need a rebuild. I think there's too many players there who are not good enough. Is the safest thing to say. But I think Spurs will become good as soon as they get a director of football and a manager who can do it. I mean, I've seen some of the names linked, and quite frankly, I can't believe some of the names I've seen, like Ange Postecoglou. I mean, I know he's done it at Celtic, but it's a bit of a gamble to gamble on a manager that's been manager of Celtic.
But how can Tottenham rebuild though? This is what I don't understand. How could Tottenham rebuild if Arsenal are if Tottenham were to rebuild? Let's go with your plan. Tottenham were to rebuild. It would take them a year, 2 years to rebuild. Correct? 2 years to rebuild. Let's say That's 2 years. Arsenal, meantime, 2 years, they are probably fighting for the league and very well secure themselves in Champions League spot. Newcastle, same thing. Manchester City are flying. Liverpool, you lot probably had already a little rebuild, but you lot are back into it. Okay, then you've got the likes of Brighton, Aston Villa, who are already fighting for Champions League spots, European spots. We've got 6 teams ahead of us. This is not, and then say we get to a rebuild. Now then we finish that rebuild. Where does that lead? Where does that lead Tottenham? Because if Tottenham are the top five team like we are, then where's our place in the league? Because we, in 2 years, guarantee you, we are not fighting for the league like Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Newcastle. Guarantee not. United, let's not forget about United. United are still in the mix as well. So where are Tottenham in this league? If Harry Kane goes in the next 2 years, Sonny goes in the next 2 years, what's our team? What's our team? You've seen, did you know that if it was without Harry Kane, we would have finished 14th. And if it was without Harry Kane touching the ball at all, we would have finished 17th in the league. Do you know how mental that is? We would have been equivalent to Leicester City this year. It's absolutely mental. It's mental to think that. And yet we need to rebuild that. It's impossible.
Liverpool would have been between 12th and 13th if we didn't have Alisson. So it just goes to show that when your goalkeeper is your player of the season, that's a big concern.
Yeah. So you need defense desperately. You need to add someone in the defense desperately.
Yeah.
I think that Trent positioning is very, very, very smart. It's going to benefit you in a lot of ways. And I'm just going to put that all towards me in a second. Usually when people ask me, who would you love to, if Tottenham could sign one player, who would you like Tottenham to sign? First one is Trent Alexander-Arnold. This is hypothetically, if we could sign anyone, wouldn't be Mbappe, wouldn't be Haaland, obviously maybe. Trent Alexander-Arnold all day. He's a clever, he's a beast. Trent is a beast. It just depends on how you utilize him. You lot now bring him into the midfield, letting him do your passing. I'm telling you, if you allow him to do those more often, then you're gonna get somewhere. With those passes, you don't see them every single day. And I think honestly, with Trent within his new spot, like a kind of like a Stones type of ish, is very, very, very promising.
Well, I tell you what, we better wrap it up there, because I tell you what, 3 hours and nearly 20 minutes. But what I'll do is I'll give everybody their chance to say their piece. So, Josh, do tell everybody where they can find your channel, mate.
Well, you can find myself on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Instagram just hit 14K. YouTube just hit a K. So we're trying to go as much as possible, bring you the latest news regarding Tottenham Hotspur, and we like to do fan channels, bring them on, see what their point of view is regarding the Premier League and sometimes Champions League. You never know. Well, we were in it last year, not in it anymore. But Spurs Live, you can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and now Twitter. So big up. Thank you so much.
No problem at all, mate. And we'll have you on next season. And yeah, sorry, it's been a little bit short, but yeah, we've been on for so long. So yeah, we better wrap it up. And Doug, you've been on for the duration, haven't you, mate? Do tell everybody, where can they find the Dugout Football channel?
Yeah, the Dugout Football channel on YouTube. Literally, we are broadcasting over on here and obviously on all the jerseys and all departments as well. But no, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure this evening. My Twitter handle is @_992, Instagram Douglas.Horn, and Facebook is Douglas James Hall.
Thank you so much for coming on. And I better tell everybody, because just in case anybody is interested in finding out where AFC Bournemouth is, UTC IAD AFCB is the YouTube, Twitter, Instagram handle. Instagram.
Instagram.
It just falls out of your mouth, doesn't it, Craig?
Facebook. Yeah, I can't speak properly, can I? So yeah, no, thank you everybody for joining us on this show today. And Manny, I know you dart around lots and lots and lots of different channels, but you are a cherry picker, aren't you, with us?
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to rejoining you on Thursday, I believe it is. I think we got the schedule, and
Yes.
I'm not too sure what we're going to discuss, but it is going to be a surprise. Cherry picking is always a great deal of fun, and NS Sports TV. I think we've just about wrapped up, I'm afraid,
Yeah.
but
Next time,
you might.
definitely.
Yeah, definitely next time. All right.
Yeah,
But,
subscribe to UTC IAD, and then as soon as something does go live, do by all means jump in, and you're more than welcome anytime. And yeah, thank you so much, Doug. We are, believe it or not, Manny, we are only 20 subscribers away from the One Big K ourselves. So,
beautiful. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
We are a small club in a very big pond. So yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, we shall get there. But yeah, thank you again, Manny, and I shall see you during the next one. And thank you everybody for joining us on John Sinclair TV, the Dugout Football Channel, and of course, up the Cherries and All Departments. I've been Craig. He's Manny. And we shall see you in the next show. Thank you for joining us.
Not going nowhere. Somebody help me. Cherry's alive. You can tell by the way I use my walk. I'm a woman's man, no time to talk. Music loud and women warm. I've been kicked around since I was born.
Now it's alright, it's okay. You may look the other way. We can try to understand the New York Times and Fake Tom man.